to LaserDisc and Chill. Today I got a very special guest, Belgian comedian Alex Agnew. Your mother tongue is English, so this will be no problem at all. We'll just...
Yeah. And I was raised in English by an English father.
So it's not actually your mother tongue, it's your father tongue.
Actually, yeah. And if people listen to me, they probably can almost pick up where I come from, because I've got a bit of a northeastern English accent, a Yorkshire accent.
Up north.
As I call up north, aye. So I'm not as bad as my dad was, because he talked about, if he talked about a cookbook, he said a cookbook. You know, it was like that. So it had a lot of those things. But yeah, I'm actually raised in English. That's also where I came from culturally, because I've got like a huge hole in my culture as far as Flemish culture is concerned. Thanks to my dad, because he hated the Dutch language, which I've learned to love growing up. But I have to say, I had to come a long way to kind of enjoy Dutch, because my dad really hated it that much. So yeah, I watched a lot of movies, but not a lot of Belgian ones, which I kind of caught up with later in life.
Did your dad like anything at all, Belgian or Flemish?
Well, he liked Louis Neefs, because he thought he was a good singer. He was like, he's got a nice voice, so he liked him. And there was like certain things, I guess, that he thought was okay. But I kind of I have this suspicion that he actually liked Belgium a lot more than he pretended to,
yeah, so
because he was always saying, "Oh, one day we'll move to England," but we never did. He never went back. I don't think he really missed it either, to be honest. I think there's a lot of really great things about Belgium, and I think he realized that as well. So. I think it was more of a thing to him, not to let go of his British identity because he wasn't living there anymore. Usually the most patriotic British people don't live in Britain, which is a funny thing, yeah.
I remember on the 1st of January 2002, so when the euro was introduced, there was a full-page spread on the Gazette van Antwerpen, of a traditional Brit standing in his full regalia with a handmade sign saying, "Keep the pound, stuff the euro."
Yeah, well, that's typically what they are as well. It's what my dad used to say about England, is they have an island mentality.
Yeah.
They're not part of the mainland that's abroad, that's something else.
It's an island, yeah.
And they do that a lot of it goes a long way in explaining Brexit as well, because they've always been this fiercely independent, almost empire, which they're not anymore, they're not anymore, and which they kind of never really got over. I think there's still a lot of ex-empire in England that they need to come to terms with. So I guess that's why Brexit. Well, one of the many reasons why Brexit happened. Yeah,
there was a great meme of the Queen, rest in peace, the Queen, at the Olympics in 2012, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, the parade, the opening parade. So Australia walks by, everyone, and there was a meme. I used to own all these people.
Yeah, yeah, sad but true. Yeah, well, anyway.
So what are we here to do?
Can I open this?
Of course. I got it for you. I also got the milk, because I know you like your Oreos with milk.
Oreos with milk. Yeah, that's a good. You've really done your research.
Yeah, and I know you like your kettle chips as well.
Ah, very good.
No, the main thing I asked you, or the main reason why I asked you today, is because I've been a guest in your podcast twice, or on your podcast twice, but of course there's always a subject why you get invited to your podcast. There's a book or a movie or something.
There's always a reason.
There's never just because. And there was one thing I want to do for a long time, is talk about our favorite movies, because I know you're a movie buff, I'm a movie buff, and it would be a great opportunity to talk just our top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Which was a horrible question, by the way, because for every 5 movies we're going to talk about, there's another 5 that could just as easily be the top 5.
Of course. Yeah. But it's always fun to do it, and then eventually in 3 years we can do another one, because but I know your number 1 is pretty set in stone. Mine is as well. So the rest of the top 5 will be a surprise. We haven't talked about it, so to us it will be. I guess you could start, because of course you're the guest.
Okay.
Which is the number 5, or what is the number 5 favorite movie?
Well, before I go into the number 5, I just want to throw in a couple of honourable mentions.
Of course.
But very short.
Very short.
Things that I used to grow up with, because I was thinking about which 5 movies am I going to choose, and my wife actually helped a lot when she said, "So what is it that you like rewatch many times? What are the movies that you actually spend time with and watch a lot of them and just go back to instead of movies that you just thought that's a great movie but it's just one of the many movies you never see them again even though they're fantastic. So when she said that, I immediately landed with a couple of movies that are also in the top 5 now, but just a few honorable mentions is this one, Masters of the Universe, of course, which is by no means a masterpiece, but it is one of my, they say no such thing as a guilty pleasure, because if it gives you pleasure, there's nothing wrong with it. So that's what that is. It's one of my pleasure films. When I was a kid, I went and saw that in the cinema about 4 times, I think. I really love Frank Langella's Skeletor. He's amazing. I don't know. I never understood the hate for that movie. I was always like, it has a small budget, and they go to Earth, and it's like the fish out of water story. But I always enjoyed it. John Hughes movies, things like The Breakfast Club, which I've seen a million times. Things like, of course, Back to the Future. Movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. All those like 80s
That's
movies.
That's favorite, right?
Yeah, all these movies that I grew up with as a kid. Things like the Mad Max movies, or things like, a lot of those things are like honorable mentions because they actually were very formative. But if I have to start the list at number 5, and that's one my wife told me, because that's actually what I do. Usually by the time we get to Christmas, I sit down and I do like the full Lord of the Rings marathon. So, and the extended editions as well. So like the really long ones.
She's watching for 12.
She's like, I'm just going to leave him alone. And I do that. And I do have to say that is, that's maybe not in the order which we're going to say him, but that's like a top 5 thing, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, because it was I can't remember. Well, I can remember because there's another movie like that in the top 5. But it hardly ever happens that you go and see a film and you basically like transported into another world and you don't want it to end. And that's, I remember the first time I saw Fellowship of the Ring, and you get like I feel it in the air. The first thing that Galadriel says, and she talks about all the rings, and you see the war with Sauron, and immediately to me that was like, wow, because when you read the book, you have your imagination. But I have to say that Peter Jackson's imagination's better than mine. Because everything I saw was like, oh God, this looks great. Like when they meet the wood elves and they walk into the trees with the staircases going up, and you just got transported into another world. And also the casting of that film is unbelievable, because I mean, good luck trying to be a better Gandalf than Ian McKellen, because it's not possible. He's the embodiment of what that character is. And not only that, but he's also a huge fan. Same thing with Christopher Lee, who
knew Tolkien.
Who knew him, and who also plays Saruman, but there's no one that can have that weight on that character just because he knows that character so well. I think they just dressed him up, walked him on the set, and he probably didn't even have to learn his lines. He probably knew them by heart.
He probably read it every year.
And he probably could read the script and go, I'd say that. You missed that. That's just an important sentence. So you can feel the unbelievable labor of love on that movie. And it was, I think, along with the Harry Potter films, it was like the one of the post Star Wars, post Back to the Future, post Indiana Jones, like all these things that were like in the early 80s, and that kind of built up, or late 70s, that built up to be this franchise that defined like generations and actually went from one generation to the next. I think Lord of the Rings is one of those movies for a lot of people as well, just like Harry Potter is, because it was that thing like, wow, man, Jesus, we're going into another world. And I like the second one with the Battle of Helm's Deep, which I think is still one of the best, battles ever filmed. It's the anticipation before they start fighting, the whole thing. So I think that's probably one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah.
Did you ever see the animated version?
Yeah, I did, and I saw that before I saw the original Lord of the Rings, and I had it on a video cassette like this. Because Ralph Bakshi made another one of my very favorite movies called Fire and Ice, which is like you should do that because it's really good. It's a bit of it was kind of based on paintings by Frank Frazetta, who also worked with them. He made a lot of paintings for Conan the Barbarian, stuff like that. Another movie that could be in the top 5.
Honorable mention.
The other one. But I was always a fantasy kid. I was always into a lot of science fiction and fantasy, which I was really, really always very interested in. And so to me, I think Ralph Bakshi, I saw that, and they did something kind of special with that movie because they kind of painted over actual people, which they also do in Fire and Ice because you can see the movements are really fluid. You know, it's not animated. You can feel like there's something going on. I think they called it rotoscoping. So that was a very special thing as well.
They used in Aha's Take on Me video.
Which is also brilliant.
That's rotoscoping.
But that was the thing that I kind of I liked that movie as a little kid. I saw it and I went and saw it in the cinema in Cartoons. Which is like the art house cinema here, right? I worked there for a long time, and I was they did a showing of it once, and I went and saw it when I was working there, I think. And he was like, "Oh, we're getting an old copy of Lord of the Rings," so I went and saw it, and of course it's half a movie. So you kind of watch it, and it kind of ends very anticlimactically because you'd never got to see the second part, which was also weird because there was also a comic book of Lord of the Rings, which ended exactly in the same place, and which said this concludes the first part of the saga of the ring. It was something like that. And I was like, there's going to be another 3, but they never materialized. So this was the first time that actually somebody, 1, did it live action, and 2, brought the entire trilogy to the screen. And I still remember some people going, there's no Tom Bombadil. And I was like, I'm not missing Tom Bombadil. I didn't think he was that great a character anyway. But I was really impressed by that. And I think the casting was amazing. I mean, like Viggo Mortensen is like the perfect Aragorn. Great thing was he's a very, very good actor, but he wasn't a big star.
No, that was his breakthrough.
And he was going for a while because I saw him in a lot of other things. He played Satan in one of those. It's a movie about fallen angels. What was that called? It's Christopher Walken was in that as well.
I know. The Prophecy.
The Prophecy. Yeah, so he was that, and he was. I always knew him from movies. I knew who Viggo Mortensen was, but I'd never. All of a sudden, that was like the perfect part for him. And sometimes it's really good when you're not really overly familiar with the actor that plays a part, because then they become the part. You can kind of look at him and go, that's Aragorn. And there was a lot of that. I mean, Cate Blanchett was an amazing Galadriel. There's no one that looks more like an elf than she actually does. It was all of it was great. So I was really impressed by those films.
It's funny. Viggo Mortensen. In English, they have a saying called "Hey, it's that guy," which is the supporting actors that never make it that big, but they're always excellent. And I once read an amazing definition on "Hey, it's that guy." I think the winner was who was the winner? What's his name? Of course, James Cromwell.
Yeah.
He said he's the ultimate that guy. He's never the marquee star. He's never the multi-million-dollar deal guy. But he's never bad enough that he makes the movie bad. He always makes the movie better.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the ultimate that guy.
He's great. And I love him. One of his favorite parts of his, which is also an easily top 5 movie, could have been, is LA Confidential.
Oh, yeah.
Where he plays the corrupt police officer. You have any valediction, boyo? He's that Irish guy always. He's always like a nice Irish man, but either he plays a nice farmer or a horrible person. But he's really good at doing both.
Nothing in between.
No, he's always, when he comes on, he's one of those people. You have people like that when they appear on screen, you're immediately watching them.
And you know what they're going to be.
And he's that kind of guy. He kind of really, and he's been, in scenes with other great actors. Like he was also like the brother in Succession.
Yeah.
Who was and he's great in that movie as well, because he's at the table with heavyweights, but he is one of the heavyweights. Because when that guy walks into the room, I've seen him in a lot of films, and he's always great.
Of course.
So he's that guy. Yeah.
That guy. Yeah. I remember reading a Jurassic World review that had me in stitches. It said Vincent D'Onofrio shows up, and he's up to no good because he's played by Vincent D'Onofrio. And that's true.
Which is sometimes not a good thing if you have like a murder mystery and you have a guy walking in and you kind of go, I don't know anybody else, but I know him, so he's going to be the one that did it.
That's even a trope. That's a trope. It's called narrowing it down to the guy I recognize.
Yeah, true. And that was a lot with a lot of old TV shows.
Columbo did it all the time.
Yeah, because they had like one famous guy that was in it,
and
you were like,
afford one famous guy.
You're like, well, that's going to be him, isn't it? Because what else would he be doing here?
Have you seen the Hulu series, The Only Murders in the Building?
No, I haven't.
It's really recommended.
I need to see it.
They do a great subversion of the classic trope, because Paul Rudd shows up and you think, oh, that's gonna be the murderer. He's not.
No.
So that's really a subversion of what.
That's really good.
It's a really good. It's a really good show. Really good.
Well, that's something that they should do, because it's become such a classic trope. It's like having Star Trek, having them all go down, and the guy with the red shirt is the only one that survives. That would be a really interesting one as well.
Yeah. One more thing about Lord of the Rings, and then we'll move on.
Sure.
I remember there was a hilarious anecdote of Ian McKellen. I think it was on Graham Norton.
Yeah.
And he said he was nominated for an Academy Award, Best Supporting Actor that year.
Which he should have won.
Yeah, I don't know who won that year.
I don't know, but you can't become a character more than he is Gandalf.
Probably though. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, watchers of you, but I think it was Jim Broadbent, who's also an amazing actor. So let's say if you have to lose, that's
about fair, I might say. Yeah.
But anyway, so he was on the Academy Awards, and there's a pre-party and there's an after-party. But during the pre-party, he saw Maggie Smith, the acclaimed Dame Maggie Smith, who already has 2 Oscars on her. What's the word I'm looking for?
Mantelpiece.
I was thinking of stove, but mantelpiece.
On the stove.
On the stove, cooking with. Anyway, and she said, "So, how are you?" Well, some pleasantries, some chit chat, and he had like a talisman. He had like a good luck charm.
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, what's that?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my good luck charm, and I'm hoping I'm going to win the Academy Award tonight." Of course, he doesn't win. So during the after party, they meet again. Yeah. And Maggie Smith said, didn't work, did it?
Yeah. And he's always doing Maggie Smith as well, and she kind of hates it because he always goes, "You have to stop doing me." So that's one of those. Yeah, but he's just one of those great guys as well. I saw him because his other great part. Well, he's played millions of great parts, but I really loved him as Magneto as well. I thought he was fantastic.
That was actually the first time I met him.
Yeah. And he was what I loved about him when he was there was another Graham Norton story where he was sitting next to Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman, and they had just made Logan. But he hadn't seen it, and they were talking about, you used to be in the X-Men franchise as well, and he went, yes, and he looked at Patrick Stewart and went, you should just die off in that movie, get rid of all those old franchises. But the fact is, he does die in the movie, so so everybody like bursts out laughing, and then Hugh Jackman said something like really nice. He said, X-Men was my debut part, and I was very nervous, and you made me feel, great, and you made me at ease, and you were very nice to me. And Ian McKellen said, "I was in love with you, old boy. I was trying to get into your trousers." And that's just one of those things where I kind of go, he's such a great character, like everything he does. Because one of my favorite movies with him as well is Richard III, which is like the Shakespeare adaptation.
I remember that poster on the cartoons.
Yeah, I saw it there.
That was such an amazing, with the cheekbones, and a great poster. Yeah.
Now's the winter of our discontent. That he has that way of speaking that immediately lends this enormous gravitas to everything he says. So yeah,
there's only
great
a few
actor.
actors that just open their mouths and you believe. It's like James Earl Jones,
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah. You can listen to them reading the phone book and you're still
invested.
invested.
And you're like, yeah, sure,
Go
whatever. I'll just
hours.
listen to that. I don't care. This
that would
is
be
great.
Funny, actually. He's like Abrams 0473. yeah, amazing actors.
I first met Andy Dufresne. Yeah.
What you just told about Ian McKellen and Hugh Jackman also reminded me there's a Simpsons audio commentary. They're of course recommended because they talk about all the stories behind the scenes during the episode.
Yeah.
And one of the episodes is what's his name? George Takei.
Yeah.
And apparently he came to the table read, so the first table read, and they're discussing the script. There's still time for adjustments, and there's like this intern, young boy, 21, and George Takei says, I'm gonna call you Angel. you see the intern going, I gotta get out of here.
I love the fact that he's because he got older. I think he was in the closet a long time because he was that was like a different time in the world and in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But what I love about George Takei was once he was out, he was really out.
He embraced it.
Yeah, he really didn't care, and that's what I love about that guy. He wrote a really good comic book, by the way, as well. I think it's called They Called Us Enemy.
Oh.
And it's about him growing up in the United States during the Second World War, where Japanese people were put in like internment camps. And he grew up with that, and he wrote a really great comic about that. So he's a really cool guy as well, George Takei. I love him.
He did have some disadvantages. I mean, he was not Caucasian. He was gay.
Yeah.
In those times,
and he has a beautiful voice. He has an unbelievable voice. He's got like a lot of those guys. He has one of those trained actor voices, where you kind of go. You have people that are just like a bit raw and a bit natural, but like guys like McKellen. That's why they're really good at like Shakespearean parts, because they really know how to play that, and not everybody can do that. So I love all of these really like old school, very classically trained actors, like Laurence Olivier and all those guys that have like this enunciation. What was his name? Richard Burton. No one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century. He has this like beautiful Peter O'Toole. Yeah, all those guys. Yeah,
I love him. I'm struggling to find the name, but. What's the main guy in Succession? The Pater.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. Brian Cox. It's Brian Cox.
That's also an amazing voice.
Yeah, and Brian Cox is that. Well, that was the other heavyweight I was talking about when James Cromwell was at the table
meeting
with him,
the Giants,
and they were like they're like equals. And you can kind of tell that the character that Brian Cox plays still craves a kind of recognition because his brother's really the only one that stands up to him and that says, I think you're morally corrupt and you're hopeless, and he's like, who do you think you are? But he's the only guy in the entire series that ever really says what he thinks, which makes it like a very fascinating kind of dynamic. So that was great.
Super. Okay, so it's time for my number 5.
Yeah, I'm really curious. What's your number 5? The Land Before Time. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really great.
Yeah, it's actually my favorite animated movie as well.
Okay.
So there's nothing higher in the ranking.
It's Don Bluth, right?
Yeah, Don Bluth, Lucas, Spielberg, and Don Bluth. So that's like
a holy trinity.
A trio of great guys.
Yeah.
It's actually. Have you seen it back in the day? Because you were 16 when it came out.
I never saw it.
No.
I never saw it. I've never seen it. No, I'll be honest with you. I've never seen it.
That's okay. Recommend it. That's all I can say. It's only 66 minutes long. Because there was a lot of cut out, so they at least cut 12 or 13 minutes because it was allegedly too scary for kids.
Yeah,
it's actually still a quite scary movie. Because I have a 3-year-old son and I tried it with him, and I think we only made it like 20 minutes in because it's really quite disturbing imagery. But I for one reason or the other, I remember back in it came out in 88 in America, so that means 89 in Belgium. Back in those days,
that used to take a long time.
And there was a Pizza Hut promotion, like hand puppets.
Oh.
And I got one of those Littlefoot hand puppets. In Dutch, it's called Platvoet, but in English, it's Littlefoot.
Yeah.
I also adore the title, by the way, The Land Before Time.
It's a great title.
Because in Dutch it's just Platvoetens en Vriendjes, which is a lot less cool.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the same movie, does it?
This is really an epic. The Land Before Time.
In a world.
Remember the comedian trailer?
Yeah, that was great. That's the thing where he goes, a land before time.
It's not that kind of movie, Jack. Yeah, you're fired. I'm fired. No, you're actually fired. Get out of the booth, Jack. No, I like it in here.
I like it here. Yeah, he has this great voice.
No, but I can only recommend it. So it's an animated movie, very short. You can watch it in an hour. I think without credits, it's not even an hour. It's like 59 or 58 minutes. Yeah, of course, it's a little hard to discuss it without going to spoiler theory, so I'm not going to do that. But yeah, give it a watch. And
all right, cool.
Let me know.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Yeah, and I think as a kid I would have loved it because I was very much into dinosaurs when I was like a little kid.
So do you know why you missed it?
I was older. I think I just didn't.
You're from
see
72,
it.
Right?
Yeah, I'm from
so
72.
17 is probably not the. Yeah, you're.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just like I don't know. I think that was like no, girls were not interested in me then, but I was just a kind of I don't know. I just kind of missed it.
Yeah.
Because Don Bluth, it's only years later that I saw like Fievel, that movie, An American Tale, which I hadn't seen either, but I saw that with my wife because that was like one of the movies that she really loved as a kid. I really
liked Fievel as well, yeah.
And I loved Secret of Nim, which is like
that's even older.
Yeah, that's a lot older.
10 years older.
A lot older. And I had like there's a crow in that movie called he's not a crow. He's a crow called Jeremy. And I had like a stuffed little Jeremy when I was a kid because I kind of loved that character. So yeah, I was kind of into Don Bluth. He's like an ex-Disney guy as well, isn't he? So and he went and did his thing, but I never saw that. So I should watch it then. What is it that you like so much about it?
I think part of it is of course nostalgia.
Yeah.
When it's what we mentioned, the not guilty pleasures. Whatever you see during your formative years.
Yeah.
I think one of the first interviews I ever did when I was 16 years old was with Robert de Hert, the Antwerp director. And he told me a very profound thing. He said, whatever you watch between you're 16 and you're 24, that'll make the biggest impact on you because those are your formative years. And whatever you watch after that, you can still love it, but you'll never love it the same way you did those early.
That's the thing. That's like the kind of say that your brain kind of evolves until you're about 24, 25.
Especially a male brain is like 25.
Yeah, it's like a bit. We're like a bit longer and a bit slower than women, I guess. But that's the thing with the male brain. That's exactly what happens. You know, you're kind of forming your personality. But a lot of the things that you see during that time are so influential on the way that you watch everything else. So, and I think, there might be something to be said for that. But thank God, in my top 5, I've got a very recent film. Okay. So that's kind of fun as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I always think, would I ever get a new number 1? And I really doubt it because.
I doubt that as well. Yeah, I don't know because it's also I think you have like a couple that could be number 1. But there's like one emotional number 1 where you kind of go, he's never going to beat that one. And that's probably what it is. Yeah. I think you might see other films that kind of go, like, well, you know, if I'm like objective, that might be just as good or maybe even better. But it didn't make me feel the same way. Yeah. And that's probably the most important thing when you really love a movie. Yeah.
I think, for example, Jurassic Park, which is one of my top 10 favorite movies, but not top 5. I always say that's the movie that made the most impact viscerally on me during this. Well, I was 9 years old, so that's the perfect age to watch a dinosaur movie. Yeah. And I still remember to this day, I watched it in the Long Gone, the Calypso. In
I used to work there. I worked there for a couple of years.
The Calypso. So, and because in 93, Metropolis had just opened in Antwerp, which was the then state-of-the-art surround sound.
Yeah, that was
my parents opted for like a smaller family venue, only 3 screens.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this day what an impact it made on me. And I've never had that since. I know I saw better movies, between brackets. But that'll always remain in my head, like the movie that made the most
Same thing with me with like Superman the movie or like Star Wars the very first one.
Did you ever see Star Wars in the theater?
I saw it in the theaters.
You were 6 years old.
Yeah, I was very young. And I was, as a kid, I was like fascinated by it, and I think like everybody, because I think there's no way to overestimate the impact that movie had on the world. I mean, it basically changed everything. Yeah. It's like Jaws, Jaws is one of those.
I was just about to say Jaws was really.
Jaws is like the blockbuster.
Pre-Jaws and after Jaws, nothing.
Yeah,
like
there's this. It's just this time where you had like Lucas and where you had Spielberg and you had like all this kind of, like they were like the first American new wave of young directors. Francis Ford Coppola, what's his name, Martin Scorsese, those guys. All these guys that Tarantino wrote a great book. You've probably read it, the Cinema Speculation,
I'm reading it as we
which
speak.
is fantastic. And he talks about a lot of movies that I went out and bought on Blu-ray after I read the book. The ones that I hadn't seen, like Rolling Thunder and stuff like that. He talks about some really good films, but it's that like you had like this enormous pool of talent that kind of stood up and went. Brian De Palma, guys like that all went and made these really influential movies, and of course you can't forget about those guys, and Spielberg is definitely one of them. He's like responsible for some of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. You can say whatever you want, but that guy is such a great director.
And I think he's still going strong.
Still,
West Side Story was amazing.
I thought it was fantastic.
The Fabelmans was
amazing. A lot of people.
West Side Story is I mean, it's like a 76-year-old guy doing his first musical and doing it effortlessly as if he's done nothing else.
Yeah, I'm like I said exactly the same thing. I was watching. I went and saw that with my wife and my daughter, and it starts off with that. And you hear like, oh yeah, that's the music. It's gonna start. And of course, I'd seen the original one, which I'd never really loved. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Good,
It was just one of those things where I kind of like, if you have like a modern take on Romeo and Juliet, I loved Baz Luhrmann's version a lot more. That was more of an important movie at a time in my life. When I was working in cartoons, by the way, a lot of movies that I saw then are also very important. Formative years. So that was one of those things. But when I saw that, I was like, Jesus Christ, the guy's gone and made one of the best musicals in a very long time, because he just knows how to make movies. You can say whatever you want about the guy. If he does a choreography, it's better than everybody else's. That's just what he does. He knows how to make movies look great. And he gives it a heart as well, which is also very nice. I love his stuff.
You just mentioned it, the cosmic shift, let's say pre-Jaws and post-Jaws. Just think about the year before Jaws, 74. Excellent movies. Godfather Part 2, The Conversation. Those are excellent movies. But,
fantastic.
But then comes Jaws, and that's a blockbuster. That's something that makes your hair stand up. That's not just a well-made movie. That's a roller coaster ride. And that's just 1 year after 74, after the Godfather Part 2. Godfather Part 2 is amazing, but it's never something that says, wow, this is visually...
It's not a thrill ride. You said it. You said it very well, because that's a bit what it is. That it's movies that are a bit like roller coasters. But if they're done really well, it doesn't mean that because it's a roller coaster that it can't have heart, because the really good ones do. And that's what a lot of people kind of forget when they do it, when they went on to do it later on, and like a lot of movies now, where you kind of feel, you've got all the effects and you've got everything, but you don't have any characters that I care about, and you don't have any story that I'm invested in, and that's why a lot of those films are failing now.
But you know why it is? It's because they're made by a committee.
Of course,
it's pre-sold. It's pre-sold. It has to be there next year. Most of the time, the visual effects are already there. We don't have a story. There's not a finished script. We don't have a cast.
And you've got a lot of things going on, and everybody has like their reasons why they think that a lot of movies are crap now. But the truth is that if you take everything away, whether people are like talking about woke politics or talking about anything, it doesn't matter if you've got a good story. If you've got a good story and you've got characters you care about, then even if you inject it with some politics, it doesn't matter, because you're invested in the characters and in the story. But if you don't do that, well, then that just becomes another thing you're annoyed by. And that's a bit where I think I think it's going to get better because you kind of can tell that there's like a shift where there's movies that are just really good and entertaining again. And where you also have like this really interesting shift which kind of happened between the 80s and the 90s, which, you know, to me is a guy that could also easily be in the top 5, who was maybe the most important director of the 90s, Quentin Tarantino, who kind of changed the game again.
Yes.
And he did stuff that nobody... The first time I saw Reservoir Dogs, which is the first movie I saw of his in cartoons while I was working there. I remember the boss of cartoons, Erik Kluk, he rest in peace, he came up to me and he said, there's a movie, you have to see this. And I was like, what is it? It's called Reservoir Dogs. I said, what's it about? He said, I'm not going to tell you, but you're going to love it. And I went and I sat down and I remember that first conversation. And that's like almost the first time you've ever heard characters talking about nothing. About stuff that's not relevant to the plot, but you just get to know guys. It's a bunch of guys shooting the shit at the table, and that was to me like wow, what am I listening to? What are those guys saying? And then he gets like the whole bit where Steve Buscemi talks about not tipping and all of that, and everything they said was almost instantly quotable. Where you kind of knew I'm watching something special, and then his use of music as well, which also became very well known. But those movies had an enormous cultural impact as well, and I think that's one of the things that I always missed when you talk about Avatar. Avatar is like very well-made movies that look really great, but
James Cameron knows how to make a movie.
He knows how to make an action movie. It looks great. It's actually good. I like both movies very much, but they have zero cultural impact. Nobody cares about Avatar, which is really funny because they should, but they don't.
I was actually surprised that the second one did as well as it did.
It did very well. And I was also really surprised.
I was afraid that it was going to flop.
But it is a good movie and it's very well made.
The whale scenes are amazing.
It's unbelievable. That's the one thing about this movie. It took him like 50 years to make, but in the end, when you see the CGI in those movies, it does make other movies look like cheap crap. That's what it does.
Shall we open your kettle chips, by the way?
Yeah, why not? Let's just...
This episode is sponsored by kettle chips.
Let's do that. It's the veggie ones I can see.
I hope you like them.
No, they're fine. There used to be another brand that used to do them. They look a bit like potpourri when you put them in a bowl, but they're all right. You know, they're kind of good. It's like sweet potato and beetroot and stuff like that. Yeah,
we also have very funny Pac-Man Oreo.
That's really good.
In the shape.
I wonder if they look like that.
I hope they do. Cool. I hope they do. I also bought last year. There were some Batman or for the Robert Pattinson movie. Did you like that one, by the way? Because I know you're a huge Batman fan.
Yeah, I did like it very much.
There were a lot of detractors and fans. It was like a polarizing movie.
Yeah, which is good because then you mean it did something. You know, it kind of stood for something. What I liked about that movie, I liked the way it looked very much. Yeah. I also liked that for the first time you got an aspect of Batman that you never get in the movies, the detective, which he is in the comics. And in some of the best comics, he's actually pretty much Sherlock Holmes that can kick your ass. So I thought that was really good. Yeah, I really loved Paul Dano as the Riddler. I loved the look of it. I thought Colin Farrell was amazing.
He stole the movie.
He looks like Robert De Niro. I was looking at him and I was like, this doesn't look like Colin Farrell at all. And he's fantastic. So I'm kind of looking forward to that series, The Penguin.
The series. Yeah.
The series.
That's coming, yeah.
And there's also a movie coming. I don't know. I've heard like kind of rumors about all kinds of things. Like it might be Hush, or it might be Mr. Freeze, and you know that Sub-Zero kind of story that was like in an animated movie as well. So now I'm looking forward to that because I really love those films. Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah.
What about your number 4? Number 4.
I have to think. Fight Club. Fight Club's my number 4. It was one of those films that I went and saw and had no idea what I was going to see. I hadn't read the book by Chuck Palahniuk, and I was kind of wondering what that was going to be like. The only thing I knew was it was like about an underground fight club, and I saw like some pictures of Brad Pitt looking great, and I thought, it's Brad Pitt, it's Edward Norton. I mean, I loved Edward Norton in American History X.
Primal Fear.
So I was, those movies. So he was like really, it's like two really great actors in a movie. Of course, what's her name? Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah.
It was also fantastic. So I was like, I'm going to watch that, and it's going to be about like underground fighting and stuff like that. I was kind of half expecting to go and see an action movie, and then I got that, which is, I don't know, it's also one of those movies that became culturally important, that has things that it says that people kind of repeat now and kind of go, it's like Anarchy, that movie. It's like a process of it's a lot about like a lot of lonely male guys that have nobody. It's kind of still, if you talk about guys like incels and stuff like that, and how easily they could be radicalized to do some really harmful shit.
Yeah.
That's a movie that was talking about that before we had the word incel, before all those things were happening. Yeah. There was already this kind of a lot of people mourning the loss of like the essence compared to like consumerism and just buying a load of stuff, and like he goes like, I never had to, I thought that's the couch thing taken care of, and he was like, shit, now it's all gone. The Tyler Durden character is fantastic, played by Brad Pitt, who's such a great actor, by the way, because there's so many parts that he played that you can say are amazing. But Tyler Durden looks like one he had enormous fun with, because he's just this kind of totally free, doesn't give a fuck spirit. And then you have like Edward Norton, who's like the really neurotic, he just wants control because he doesn't have control of anything. And then all of a sudden you have this thing where they kind of start this underground fight club, which grows into like a global movement, because a lot of men are just lost. Yeah. And all of a sudden they find this kind of purpose just to beat the shit out of each other, and then kind of get up and go, I feel great, I feel alive, I feel like I'm doing something. And there's a lot to be said for that. I think it's like Joe Rogan that says if you put yourself through something really hard and horrible, usually makes the rest easy. And you kind of notice with those two, with the two main characters, but of course, especially Edward Norton's character, that he kind of, all of a sudden he makes all these decisions that he never used to make for himself, and he kind of realizes that he doesn't need all the shit he has. What he does is he needs to be a person. He needs to believe in what he does. And it's also one of those films, I love films that are like perfect from the beginning till the end, that don't lose sight of what they're doing. Don't have a nice build-up that then ends up being a gigantic anti-climax. They don't do that. That movie puts its money where its mouth is. And like the last scene, which I'm not going to spoil what happens, but there's like the scene where Helena Bonham Carter's character Marla comes in and finds him, and they stand next to each other in a high-rise building, look outside of the building, and he says, "You've met me at a strange moment in my life." And then you just see buildings explode, and the kind of, like these controlled demolitions, where you see these financial buildings collapse, and then you hear "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies, and that's like a perfect ending. It's like a fairy tale ending for anarchy. You're just looking at it and you're going, he's just plunged the world into utter chaos. But this is going to be really interesting, and that to me sells a movie. I love movies that promise something and then kind of deliver on the promise instead of backing off at the last moment. So that's basically why I really love that movie. Yeah,
I can always adore movies that have a perfect ending.
Yeah.
Immediately comes to mind is, for example, Ocean's 11, the remake. With the fountain scene.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. That's it's just one of those movies that, like I said, it doesn't pull back at the last moment. It just sees, it has a vision and it sees it through.
Or The Lost Boys, the granddad saying, "Oh, the damn vampires!"
Yeah. Too many damn vampires.
I just love the fact that he never mentioned in the movie.
Nah,
he's never mentioned in the movie that he knows about the vampire problem, and then of course he always knew.
Yeah.
All the damn vampires.
He had this other great line where he said, "Let's just say if all the dead were to stand up at the same time, we'd have a hell of a population problem," which is just a great movie as well. I really love that film
really
as
great
well.
Movie.
Yeah.
That's also one of those guys. He's that guy. I think it's Barnett Hughes, the grandfather. Always amazing. Whatever he does, the smaller the part, the better he is.
Yeah. So's the guy that plays the lead vampire.
Edward Herrmann.
Yeah. Who's also one of those guys.
Passed away, sadly. He's in one of my favorite honorable mentions, Richie Rich. He's the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Rich.
Right.
Oh, I love him, Edward Herrmann.
He's a great actor as well.
Oh, he's great.
There's so many of them.
Yeah. Never invite a vampire into your home, boy.
Yeah.
You're powerless.
Yeah.
I do like garlic. It's just a little much.
I
love that movie. It's so quotable as well.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And I thought, of course, he's like the iconic character in the movie, but Kiefer Sutherland is unbelievable.
That one tear.
You
know the story behind the one tear?
No.
Apparently he was wearing contacts for the yellow eyes, but he really hated the contacts. So that's a real tear. That's not even improvised. It came down. It was a perfect shot.
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher said, "I just had to keep the shot. It was amazing."
Yeah. And he did and the way he plays it as well, like, "Hey, Michael," everything he says and the way he just acts.
How do you like those maggots?
Yeah.
And then amazing, Jamie Gertz. Has any vampire been sexier than Jamie Gertz?
Well, Jamie Gertz was one of my boyhood crushes. I think she was one of those girls that I looked at and went,
I wish I could.
That would be great.
That would be great if I could have a date with Jamie Gertz.
That would be great. Yeah.
And then the oily sex player.
Oh, he's great. Well, he's what's that guy's name?
Tim Capello.
Tim Capello. Yeah. Tim Capello is actually on there's which you should check if you haven't heard them. There's a British like synthwave band called Gunship. They have like this really you're gonna love those guys. They have an album called Dark All Day. If any, to all your listeners, Dark All Day. Yeah. And there's a song on there, and it's kind of about the Lost Boys, and Tim Capello plays the sax on that.
And you immediately.
And it's a great song, but the entire album's great. They also have like another song called When You Grow Up Your Heart Dies, which is The Breakfast Club. Mm-hmm. Where Ali Sheedy's character says that when you grow up, your heart dies. And then I think it was Judd Nelson who plays John Bender who says, "Who cares?" And she says, "I care." And that's kind of like the opening to the song as well. So there's a lot of references to 80s movies, but it's really, really great. They're like really great musicians, and great songs as well.
What's it called? Gunship?
Gunship. It's named after a video game, like an arcade game called Gunship. And they also have like this neon artwork, and it's all that like 80s gamey kind of stuff. But the music is really, really great, and that album Dark All Day, you should really check it.
Is it what year? Is it recent? Or?
Recent, yeah. It's like a couple of years ago. They're still. I think they released a new album last year.
Okay.
So they still exist, and they do a lot of that stuff. But they also have a song called Artemis and Parsifal, which is Ready Player One.
Ready Player One. Of course, yeah. So I love that one as well.
I love the book as well.
And that's vintage Spielberg to me.
Yeah. That's also a very good movie. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
You could call that's one of those that doesn't touch me on an emotional level, but it's just a very well-made Spielberg blockbuster. And I like the return of those because he's made a lot of good movies, but they're serious movies like Munich, like The Fabelmans. Those are serious movies. Yeah. But I always love the return to fun blockbuster Spielberg. Yeah. And Ready Player One is one of those.
Yeah. I really love that, and all the little references in it to every other. I love the way where he kind of goes to a party with a girl, like with Artemis. I think he's like Parsifal, and they get to this thing, and then she goes, "Oh right, Buckaroo Banzai," because he's dressed as. Which is another one of those like 80s culty movies that I really love.
I've never seen that one.
I saw it.
It's in my basket, in my Amazon basket, because there's apparently a very good Arrow release, but I've never.
Yeah, you should see it. Yeah. It's really good. Yeah, really good. I don't know if it's really good. It's just a really special movie because it's like one of a kind.
But that's Paul Weller. No, Peter Weller, right?
Peter Weller, yeah.
Paul Weller is a musician.
Peter Weller is the guy that played RoboCop, yeah. It was like,
And he's Buckaroo Banzai.
He's Buckaroo Banzai, yeah.
Because I always confuse me. It's weird. There's another actor, but I don't know his name. But you'll know who I'm talking about. The bad guy in The Mask. Dorian in The Mask. Jim Carrey's The Mask.
Oh God, I can't remember.
But I know. He looks like Peter Weller. He's also one of the bad guys in Training Day. One of those corrupt cops on the payroll of Denzel Washington.
Yeah, shit. Who is that guy? I can't. Oh man, I've got no idea.
Yeah. But if you picture
your
that
listeners
guy,
are probably going, "It's that guy, you stupid." You know.
Foggy's like, "All right."
Yeah. Sometimes you just can't. But I know who you mean.
He really looks like Peter Weller. It's like he could be his younger brother.
Yeah.
And in the past, I used to confuse those two, Peter Weller and.
It's another movie that could have made my top 5 as well. RoboCop. RoboCop's one of the.
I saw that one only like, let's say, 5 or 6 years ago. So a recent discovery for me. Of course, I knew about it. I even played the Game Boy game in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was always. What's the word? Ubiquitous?
It was always there.
It's always there, but I'd never seen it. But it's also ingrained in pop culture. Like, I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah. Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
And so
one of the great bad guys as well, Clarence Boddicker, played by Kurtwood Smith, who's like
that 70s show.
Come on, Sal.
And I think my favorite death scene of all time is the guy who
and they kind
get
of
away from me, man.
run him over with a car. He's splattered to pieces.
Like a watermelon, like a
where he shoots, where like Clarence Boddicker shoots Murphy's hand, blows his hand off, and then goes, "Well, give the man a hand." He's got this horrible sense of humor, but really great. Yeah, I love that movie very
That's really
much.
A great
It's
movie.
still fantastic. I still love it.
You could say that the stop motion effects haven't aged as gracefully.
True, but
it doesn't matter. The movie is good enough.
Yeah. I could imagine if you're like a young person that's never seen it, that you kind of go like, "Oh, this is a bit crappy looking." Yeah. But if you grew up with it, that's like totally different. Yeah.
The music, the lines,
everything.
It really works.
Everything.
It's also funny that Paul Verhoeven. I always thought that after 40 years of Hollywood, he would be like this full-on American guy, but he's still so very Dutch.
Oh, yes. And even he talks, even when he does his interviews, it's always like this. He says, yes.
You'd think that after 40 years, you'd get a little bit of the American accent.
RoboCop is actually the story of Jesus Christ. And of course, because before you have the resurrection, you have to have the crucifixion. So that's
have you ever heard? I think the funniest audio commentary ever is Total Recall, which Schwarzenegger is like, "Oh yeah, I remember the girl with the 3 tits." And you liked the girl, didn't you?
Yeah. It's always that thing.
Those two guys. I play a construction worker. It's like just narrating what he's doing.
The way they also that's like the most not construction worker you've ever seen in your life.
That's like the True Lies joke. He's like the least believable computer salesman in the world. It's Arnie. Anyway, my number 4 is Hook.
Oh, this is really good as well. I really love that movie. Yeah.
Did you see it in theaters?
Yes, I did. I saw it in the theater. Yeah, I went and saw that because I love Robin Williams. He's like one of my favorite actors, maybe. Favorite comedians as well. He's like this is an Opus 1. I remember that store, by the way. That used to be on the Keizerlei.
Yeah, that was a great store.
It was a great record store. Hook is fantastic, and the reason why I also really love it is because of Dustin Hoffman, who plays Captain Hook. And the whole idea of the movie is like a lot of fun as well, isn't it? I mean, it's like Peter grew up, and it's like this one scene which is great with Maggie Smith. Mm-hmm. Who plays Wendy, who's like a very old Wendy Darling, and they kind of go and visit her because she's got like a bit of an orphanage named after her.
A hospital wing.
The hospital wing, on Great Ormond Street, you know that, and it's like a beautiful scene as well, where
they're all standing up.
Yeah,
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, and where he said, "I know what we've all got in common. We're all orphans."
Yeah, that's an amazing scene.
And it's just one of those movies where like his kid, his son goes, he sees a company and he takes it over and he blows it out of the water, and then she goes, Peter, you've become a pirate. And that's such an unbelievable bit where you kind of go, he's just turned into everything he's never wanted to be.
I love it.
And then when he does like the transformation back, and then he gets it's just a
I think that's my favorite John Williams piece ever. It's the "You Are the Pen."
Yeah.
When Rufio, who's of course jealous, and we can understand. We can understand. I mean, there's a fat old guy taking his place.
Yeah.
And Rufio is the only one he's like the only 16-year-old in a pool of 10 to 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
He's like the main. He's the pen.
Yeah.
The pen. But then it's such a beautiful scene where he sort of acknowledges that no, he's not the pen anymore. He bows and he says, "You can fight, you can crow, you are the pen." And then the swelling music of John Williams always brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, it's really great. Even talking about it.
Yeah,
it's a great movie.
The sword in the sand. And the one little black guy is the only one who believes in him. He says, there you are, Peter. I love it. It's an amazing thing.
And of course, like the fantastic, what's his name, Bob Hoskins, who is Smee.
He's
and
amazing.
they kind of that part I always thought was amazing, where he kind of goes where Hook goes, I've had an epiphany. So he's going to shoot himself. And he goes like don't try and stop me, Smee. I'm going to do it. Don't try and stop me.
Try to stop me, Smee.
Smee, come on over here and stop me. It's all that dramatics, like
it's Peter flogging flying pan.
Yeah, like the way that he's introduced as well, where they get like where he walks up with the hook, like and go, hook. Yeah, and he just walks up and you see his.
He's like a rock star. He's like a benevolent rock star.
Yeah, but when he kind of kicks the stairs and it turns into like this red carpet, all of that stuff.
Physical, by the way. That's no CGI.
No,
I love it, how the carpet comes.
Yeah, a lot of those things are really great, and he's like, "Hello, children, comfy, cozy."
By the way, I love how he's going for a British accent.
Yeah,
because of course it's a British character.
But he does it really well, because he also has that moment where he talks about kids and why he hates them, and like, I want a cookie, I want a potty, me, mine, now, and you're like, you kind of get why. He, and then when in the end, like one of those little kids said, he's just an old man that misses his mommy. That was like, and that's kind of the last thing he yells when they're like, "Mommy," that thing, which is it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those movies that completely works. Yeah. It's a very good idea, and it really works, and it works because it's also very true to the characters. Tinkerbell's still in love with Peter, and she's still jealous. And it was Julia Roberts, by the way, is also really great in that movie. And Hook, he is what he is. I love that bit where he goes and fights Rufio in the end, which is actually a really sad thing.
It's a very sad moment.
Where he kind of goes, Rufio, and like he's kind of going, you're not as good. And I'm going to prove that. And that's exactly what he does. I love it. Which is, I thought that was a fantastic film. I really love it, Yeah,
and the weird thing is that it's really ranked low tier in the Spielberg filmography.
I don't understand.
Even Spielberg himself is.
I don't understand. I've never understood that, because I thought that it's such a perfect Spielberg movie.
Perfect movie. Yeah, that's really, and the ending as well. We were talking about perfect endings. To live would be an awfully big adventure. And that hits very hard now that Robin Williams is gone. Yeah, because he didn't want to live anymore, because he chose to end his life himself. Yeah. That's really a great ending.
Yeah, supposedly Parkinson. I think he was losing his faculties, and because his brain is what he was. He had like one of the fastest brains ever, I think.
Of course.
He's like just an amazing person. He was as well.
I would love to see the set outtakes. They've never been released. For one, there's never been like a packed Blu-ray of Hook. It's always
it's always
a trailer or the very old 1991 featurette.
No, I got like a Blu-ray. I think it's like a steel book, because it looks really good, and there's nothing on it, but I just bought it because it looks good.
Even here on the LaserDisc, there's nothing. I think there's one more. I have a British LaserDisc. There's a small making of, but it's always there's just one or two making ofs out there. And I really wish that, because now, of course, two main players have died. You can't interview Bob Hoskins anymore. You can't. I really wish they would do something now. I mean, Dustin Hoffman is still alive.
Yeah.
Julia Roberts is still alive. So Spielberg is still alive. You need to do it now. The screenwriter James Hart, who also did, by the way, Dracula, one of my favorites as well, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, that's really
James
great
Hart
as well. Yeah.
He's also alive. He's also 70 plus. You should do it now.
Yeah.
They should get on it and do something.
That's also a brilliant film, like Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Yeah.
Also visually, the way it looks, it's unbelievable.
Also one of those last non-CGI movies.
Yeah.
That would
the music as well, like the boom, boom, boom. I don't know who did that. I don't know who did it.
Sven Driede would know. But
yeah, he'd probably know immediately. Yeah.
What I also like about Hook is that it's non-CGI, but also there's no annoying pop culture references. There's very tiny, very, very tiny. It's like,
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, Phil Collins is there. That's funny. Phil Collins is there. There's David Crosby, but they don't overtake the movie.
No.
If they would make it nowadays, it would be like filled with, I don't know, like a Facebook reference or a smartphone reference.
That's probably one of the things that I loved about Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't like this ironic.
No, it was just
where everybody's like really self-aware about how culturally important. It was like and what I also loved about it, one of the few returning characters from the 80s that were actually treated with the respect that he deserves. You know, he is the great
Maverick
aviator. He's the guy that can do it, and he still is. And that's like, to me, without having to diminish anybody else, because the new cast is really good.
Really good.
I love the fact that one of the pilots is a woman, but it's not really mentioned.
It's never commented upon.
It's not really. She's just as good as the rest, and they kind of have like a fight where they're talking, and she kind of goes like, "You're blah, blah, blah," and he goes, "Oh, we're with her," and you have like this just an argument between two pilots about who's better, but it has nothing to do with her being a woman or the other guy being a man. And I just love stuff like that, because I'm like, because that's what we should be doing, you know. Yes, diversity, yes, but that's the whole point of it. Like, show everybody and give them a good part and make them a great character.
It should just be.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. There's like nobody that's ever been pissed off about Ripley being a woman. There's nobody pissed off about Linda Hamilton being Sarah Connor. Nobody, because it's a great part. And if it's a great part and a great story and a great character, then that speaks for itself. Of course. That's the most important thing, I think, about a good movie, is that you don't have to be told that a character is cool.
Yeah. You just have to show it.
You have to show it,
I think that was the main problem with the Ghostbusters, the female-led Ghostbusters.
Didn't work.
I didn't hate it. I mean, I didn't hate it as an idea.
No.
To me,
totally
course,
not.
By all means, make 10 movies with female Ghostbusters. Make a good movie.
Yeah, make a good movie and
Write
make
a
it
good script.
And make it. They did kind of a reboot, which was not a really good idea. I thought it would have been. There was once it was like, I think one of the ideas about it, when it was not out yet, but people were speculating what it would be about, was that the women would all be daughters of the originals.
That would be fun.
Which would be good. Yeah, which I was like, of course, have a Venkman and have a Spengler and have a kid, and they're all like, and they do their own thing. But there's a really great, I saw like a little video on it, I don't know who did it, but it's like a breakdown between a scene in the original Ghostbusters and like the female one, and that kind of says a lot about what's wrong with that movie. And it's just how they explain the proton packs, which in the original movie is in the elevator. It's a scene that takes about
2 minutes?
Not even maybe. Yeah. In the new movie it takes about 10 minutes, and it's very wordy and a lot of shit that's being said to make the characters seem smart, but it isn't. And it doesn't work, because you're looking at it and you're kind of going, I'm not interested in what this is, because you're not conveying the idea that they're carrying a nuclear reactor, which does happen in the original movie, where he switches it on and it goes, and the guys kind of step back in the elevator because they go, if this explodes, we're all, we're going to blow New York off the face of the earth. So it's just about good writing and good characters, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I just saw the original Ghostbusters again in anticipation of the Frozen Empire, the new one. Did you see it, the new one? I liked it, by the way.
I want to see it.
It's not as well received, but I liked it. So anyway, but I I saw the original one again, and what struck me more than before Ghostbusters is often relegated or mentioned as it's just SNL guys doing funny stuff for 2 hours. It's just, but actually, when you think about it, the movie never cheapens the story. It's really, they are invested in their Ghostbusting business.
Yeah.
Of course, Peter Venkman is always cracking jokes, but Egon and Ray and Egon, the original
Dan
guys,
Aykroyd,
Dan Aykroyd, they're very much invested in the story. They want to save New York of the ghost problem.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people, they call it like a funny comedy with SNL guys. No, it's actually a really good story, and that's why it works. That's why
Egon,
the funny bits work.
Egon also plays it really straight, and so does Ray. You know, they all do, and the only one that's kind of flippant is Bill Murray, but that's because that's what he is.
And if they would all be cracking jokes, like the 4 female Ghostbusters, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work because you don't believe it. You don't feel like anyone's invested in anything.
Yeah, you need the straight.
And it's also always a bit painful if you have a comedy starring 4 funny women that aren't funny in the movie and that get every scene that Chris Hemsworth is in, he steals. Yeah. Because he actually is funny, which is always a bit painful, where you kind of go, you know, like the whole female empowerment thing is kind of getting lost because of really bad writing, and you should not do that.
Yeah, well. Number 3. How about number 3?
Number 3. What was my number 3? 7.
Okay.
7.
Second Brad Pitt movie.
7 is probably another one of those pitch perfect films. It starts off with the premise that it sees through to the end. Probably has one of the best endings in a movie that I've ever seen in my life. I don't think I've ever. Well, it's not often that I saw a movie that when the end credits rolled, we were just all sitting there going, "Jesus Christ, did we just see this?" Which is amazing. Again, the actors are fantastic. It looks really great. It's David Fincher, who always makes movies look really good. But what I really love about that movie is the like the dynamic between Brad Pitt, who's like the young hotshot, and the older, wiser guy who's Morgan Freeman, and the fact that like the crimes are really horrible. I mean, it's like diabolical. The plot. The things he does, like the 7 deadly sins, and the way he carries them out on his intended victims. And you get all of that. And of course, you have a lot of movies like that look really good, and they have like a really interesting serial killer. And then in the end, it kind of always devolves into the chasing the serial killer, and they catch him and they kill him right before he kills his final victim, or that kind of stuff, and justice is served and everything is great. And that's not how that movie turns out.
Is really, the bad guy wins.
Yeah, the bad guy wins, and he doesn't only win, but he just creates like he creates the 7 deadly sins, which he actually does. He's one of them, and Brad Pitt's the other one. Yeah. And they're like the ending. There's a lot of really great scenes. It's like when the serial killer, who's played by Kevin Spacey, who's amazing in that movie, because he's like, to me, he's like the personification of evil. But at the same time, there's also something really sad about him, because he's probably a guy that's had, I don't know, a very religious, domineering mother, which is why he doesn't like women very much. He's got like a background of being very lonely, of not. He's very intelligent, which is what makes it worse, because there's nothing worse than a very intelligent and maybe even sensitive person that never finds his way in the world and turns him into a very cruel person. And one of the best scenes ever is, of course, the ending scene. What's in the box? The thing, but where he kind of goes like, where he says that to me is like the best personification of evil that I've ever seen in any character in any movie ever. Is where he goes, where he talks about Brad Pitt's wife, who he's just killed, and he goes, she begged for her life of her and her unborn child. And Morgan Freeman hits him in the face and goes, shut up. And Brad Pitt kind of looks, and he sees the look on Brad Pitt's face, and he goes, he didn't know.
So
and it's like, to him, that's like a bonus. He's like, you're definitely going to do what I want you to do now. Yeah. And that was that thing that kind of, to me, it was such a perfect ending because, it's a tragedy. There's nothing to be gained by that entire movie. The only guy that gets what he wants and gets the notoriety that he wants is John Doe, is the bad guy. So that I thought was it's an amazing film, and I kind of see that like every couple of years I can still watch that. I can still put it on and go, I'm gonna see that again, and it's just the way it looks. Also like the ingenious ways that he tortures people, the most horrible things he kind of... It's like a really dark bit of movie making. And like in the beginning of the movie, it's the opening credits is 9 Inch Nails, which is one of my favorite bands. And the end of the movie is David Bowie with The Heart's Filthy Lesson, which is also one of my favorite artists of all time. So the whole movie to me just encompasses it encompasses everything that I like about films. So I love that film very much. Yeah.
The John Doe is a good example of, by the way, the thing we talked about in the beginning, narrowing it down to the guy I recognize.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey was insistent that his name was not in the opening credits.
Yeah.
Because then he knew that people would say, it's probably Kevin Spacey because it's not Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
It's not Morgan Freeman. So that's why he's not. That's a really smart move.
Yeah.
His name just comes up in the end credits.
Yeah, and because you can't tell, because he kind of surrenders himself. Officer, where he does that when he walks in covered in blood which then turns out to be Brad Pitt's wife's blood, which is even more horrible. But everything about him, the way he, like that conversation they have in the car when he just like goes like, so when were you gonna spring your trap? Were you just kind of he's kind of making them feel like idiots, and Brad Pitt's like really pissed off, but But Morgan Freeman's character knows like there's something off about this guy. There's not there's a reason why he's acting like this. And the thing where he goes, killing innocent people, and he goes, are you serious? The disease-spreading whore, the corrupt lawyer. He does that whole thing, and he kind of goes like, only in a world as fucked up as this could you call people like that innocent and keep a straight face. And you have that kind of thing where he kind of goes, he's justifying it to himself why he does it. Yeah. But on the other end, there's like a lot of the stuff that he says that you kind of go, I can kind of understand where he's coming from. And that's like a really, really good thing about a really good villain. That's like Thanos in the Marvel, Avengers, where you kind of understand him. You kind of go, it's fucked up, but I understand what he's trying to do. Yeah. So that makes John Doe a really, really interesting villain. But in the end, especially that moment where he tells he tells Brad Pitt about the pregnancy, and then kind of really enjoys the fact that he didn't know that. That kind of tells you a lot about that character, where you kind of go, you might have been a victim of something, but you're just a really, really bad guy. Yeah. And that made it fantastic. Yeah, great film, film.
Absolutely. And it's only Fincher's second feature film. So quite the talent out of the gate.
What was like the first one again?
Alien 3.
Alien 3, right? Yeah, that was a really weird movie as well. Yeah, because it's been all over the place, right? There's like a director's cut, and there's another cut,
and because he hates it, so it's like a producer's cut.
Yeah, so it was like an alternate cut. Yeah, I know. I saw that in the cinema, and I also didn't really love it, but I didn't really hate it. It's got like a really kind of special atmosphere. The ending's really good as well.
I always appreciate movies that are failures, but they're interesting failures. I much prefer an interesting failure than a bland, well-made movie.
Absolutely.
I can't think of an example. One of those movies that I think it's okay, stupid example, but for example, The Flintstones, that's one of my favorites. It's not a good movie by any measure, but I love it because the sets are great, John Goodman is amazing, there's fun music by the B-52s.
Yeah.
When a lot of aspects of a movie work, sometimes you end up with a very mediocre but an enjoyable movie.
Yeah,
and that's
it's true. Yeah. And sometimes a movie is just a lot better than it's been given credit for as well. I mean, there's a lot of
Hook,
things.
for example,
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be said about like a lot of film reviewers, and definitely. No, I was just kind of playing with the thing. I kind of. It's like a shame to kind of break this package. It looks really good. No, it's really nice. Thank you. I'll take them along later. But there was a lot of I don't know what I think about. There's a lot of I've always had like a bit of a love-hate relationship with movie critics. And the reason why is because I always think that a lot of really good movies don't get the fair proper shake that they deserve, just because they're like very much more commercial movies and like arty movies. Or like if they're not, like there's a lot to be said about like pseudo intellectuals who always want to seem smart because they like a movie, and that's more important than the movie itself. Which to me is always a thing where I kind of go, yeah. I know that you love that one obscure movie that nobody's seen. We know that. But could you
Russian black and white movie?
Could you just please acknowledge the fact that Hook is a very, very, very good movie? There's just a lot of that shit that I always hated about critics. And what I love about this modern age is like a guy like you. You put up your own like show, and you do it by yourself. You talk about the stuff that you want to talk about, and you've got a lot of critics like that. Like you have like the Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic, and a lot of those guys who also have a lot of that anti-woke thing going on. But they've also got a lot of interesting things to say as far as story and structure is concerned. And you have a lot of guys that like review movies now that you're like, they're like guys like us. They're like movie fans that love the same stuff that we love and grew up with. And like, instead of having to refer to it ironically or all of that shit, which you also already knew, which I think is also always very exhausting about people, is when you instantly know before they write the review that they're going to like it or not. Yeah. And it's not because of personal taste, it's because of who they're writing for. And that's something that's kind of... Like internet is being online and YouTube and stuff like that has solved a lot of that, because there's a lot of people now that are going we love this movie, and it's not because you guys can't appreciate it that it's not a good movie. So,
so it was always my childhood dream to become a film critic, like Jo Robke for example. I wanted to have like a show on Belgian television. That's just a dream. But
would be good.
What I think is the main problem with, let's say, the old guard, the critics, I think sometimes they tend to forget you should watch a movie through the eyes of who's it's intended for.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a 45-year-old Caucasian jaded critic.
Yeah.
Something like, and you have to watch Hook or Richie Rich.
Yeah.
Get in touch with your 8-year-old.
Yeah.
That's what they forget.
Yeah.
You should watch it. Would I have liked this if I were the target audience?
Yeah, but what they also usually do is they kind of how do you say, they kind of retcon their own existence, where they were always I was always more into that kind of film, and when I was a little kid I used to watch Fassbender, and you don't believe any of that shit, because it's just
the food critic.
And that's a great scene, because
it
transports him to being a little kid that loves food, that tastes something and kind of go like, this is why I was always fascinated by food, because it's just good food. Yeah. It's not all that. It's like that movie, The Menu. Did you see that movie?
I loved it.
It's fucking great.
At the end, when he's just making an ordinary hamburger, that's what he likes.
And when she kind of goes, "Could you please make that for me?" Because instead of that crap that you're making for everybody, that pretentious shit that everybody here is pretending to like, because they all have a different agenda why they actually like it. And that's a very, very interesting film as well.
Talking about great voices, Ray Fiennes.
Yeah, fantastic actor as well. I really love him.
And I'm looking forward to Furiosa, by the way.
That looks really great. That looks really great. Yeah, George Miller.
77 years old, and he's like making action movies. 79 years old. What is he doing?
I mean,
what is he doing?
I don't know. He just knows how to make them, and he knows how to make them really well.
Remember when Fury Road came out? Yeah, he had done Happy Feet and Babe Pig in the City, and he just showed the world that's how you make an action movie. He's like,
we saw that, and the thing I loved about that movie as well is where he got this kind of iconic thing in it as well, where all of a sudden you'd say things like "witness me" or "mediocre." It's just great. I love that film. I thought, and I was.
That's one of the most recent movies that really instantly struck a chord and became iconic with the lines, with the cinematography. With
the way it looked, a lot of really like practical effects. They were actually driving those cars. It was actually happening. Yeah.
One of my favorite movie critics, I don't know, I think, was it like David Ehrlich, I think?
Yeah.
Ehrlich, like a New York critic, he said, how did not 10 people die during the making of this movie?
Yeah.
You see them like jumping off buildings,
moving
cars.
Like those guys that are up on the poles.
How did they not die?
You kind of go, who's going to survive it? But there is something really, and that's the thing about practical effects that you can never achieve with CGI. There is a sense of danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're looking at it and you kind of go,
for example,
like Jesus Christ, he might not survive this because it looks like somebody actually did that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Have you ever seen the movie Used Cars? The Robert Zemeckis second
No,
feature?
I didn't, but I know the film. I know the film. Yeah.
It's really amazing. Well, if you like Zemeckis, let's say old Zemeckis, because he's kind of lost his touch, unlike Spielberg. If you ever have the chance, watch it. It's really good. Now it's hard to talk about the example because you haven't seen it, but there's near the end of the movie, there's like a guy just crossing a road, and there's a car coming at high speed towards him, misses him by an inch.
Yeah.
Of course, 1978, that was real.
Yeah.
That was on set. That guy could have died.
That guy could have died.
And that was the lead.
And
actor.
that's like if you watch the Indiana Jones movies, like the old Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he kind of does the old the stagecoach Yakima Canutt thing, where he like crawling underneath the truck. And stuff like that. There's no substitute for that. You can try and do that as many times as you want, but as soon as everything is collapsing around you and it's obviously CGI, it kind of takes away the sense of danger.
And urgency.
Yeah.
I just Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, I have a cuff as well. Raiders of the Lost Ark is also a great example of just 2 hours. It never stops.
Never stops.
Relentless. It's just it never stops.
Never stops. Not once. And it still takes a lot. Yeah. It still takes the time to tell you something about every one of the characters.
One of my favorite scenes is the only quiet scene. That's when he's talking about Hitler. He's obsessed. He's a nut on the subject. He's obsessed with the occult. Yeah. It's almost 10 minutes just 4 guys in a room, and it's riveting. I love it when he's the stuff of Ra. Wait, I gotta.
It's just
amazing.
It's a fantastic film, and the fact that you kind of it has like the kind of same idea that Star Wars had, which is like you're walking into a serial.
Yeah.
Because this guy's had adventures before. He knows Belloc. They've crossed paths. First time he meets. Karen Allen, Marion, she hits him in the face and kind of goes, Indiana Jones. You know, it was that whole thing is where you kind of, they throw you in the middle. They kind of go, this is what's happened. Yeah. You're like along for the ride now with those people. And I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. And I love the original trilogy. I think they're really, really great.
What did you think of Dial of Destiny?
I didn't really love it. I didn't hate it. I just thought it was not necessary. No. I think that's probably the thing I had the most about it. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. No. Because I really didn't like the trailer. When I saw the movie, I thought it had moments where I was like, yeah, this is all right, you know, and that's good. But I kind of went like, he doesn't need it, you know. It was perfect. To me, I'll always, in my mind, I'll always try to forget the last 2 movies and just see them. That was the perfect ending. Yeah. They ride off into the sunset. Yeah. Him, his dad, Marcus, Salah. Where Marcus goes like, follow me, out of the way, and he almost falls off his horse.
Also
and
one
then,
of those guys, great dead guys.
Yeah, he's another Denham Elliott, and then they're like Salah's with him, and his dad is with him, and it's like, I don't need to know that his dad got old and died, and that Marcus got old and died, and that Indy's all by himself, and he's miserable and he's old. I'm like, I don't give a shit, you know. I want to see the hero Indiana Jones ride off into the sunset with his dad. And whatever happens. That's his story. It's been told. That was it. It didn't need anything else. Reboot it with a younger guy. I don't give a shit. I'll go and watch that again. I don't care. But all this like the degradation of these older legacy characters I really dislike. That's why I love Top Gun Maverick, because it didn't do that.
Are there any more examples that did it really well?
I'm thinking. Well, you could look at it that way. You could look at Hook as one of those movies where Peter Pan comes back as an older guy, but he turns into his heroic self, because that's what he really is. Yeah. On the inside, he's a hero. You don't have to diminish him and kind of go, oh, he's no good anymore, and he never really was. You know, those kinds of ideas that people have that are kind of go, nah, fuck off. He was great. We loved him. So don't do that to characters. It's just not fair to anybody. Because it's also not fair in a lot of movies like that Indiana Jones movie, to the woman they're kind of trying to replace him with. You know, he's not replace him, but she's like kind of a younger version of him. But it makes her really unlikable because they treat him that bad. And you kind of go, well, it's not her fault. No. She's just the character that she is. But if you would have handled that a lot better, it could have been a passing of the torch. Yeah. It could have been that he kind of goes there, and you kind of go, and you kind of and you kind of go, oh well, you know, I want to see more of her because she's also interesting. But instead of that, they kind of write her as really arrogant, and she knows everything better than he is, and he's like an old idiot that doesn't know anything anymore, and it doesn't make any character interesting, not her and not him. It diminishes everybody, which is again a kind of trope that I'm kind of sick of. I'm like, nah, just do it well, and I'm on board. I'll watch it because I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it, and it was the same with the other one before that, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I love Kate Blanchett.
There were some good moments.
Yeah, and Kate Blanchett's great, but I love her.
The intro with Elvis Presley, that was fun.
That was good. I love
Area 51.
Yeah, I love. You know, there's some good stuff in there, but it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. Yeah. Those two movies feel like different movies. Yeah. The three originals feel like they're part of one thing, and the other two don't. Yeah.
My number 3.
Your number 3.
The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah, I really loved that film.
I saw this one in theaters in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And that was one of those formative movies. I remember sitting in the theater after the credits had rolled, like sort of a blank stare, like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Also, perfect ending with the good evening.
And in case I don't see you.
When he walks through the door out of the set.
Yeah.
Ed Harris is amazing.
Yeah.
Ed Harris kills it.
Wow.
Jim Carrey should have gotten an Academy Award for it.
Yeah.
Just an all-round great movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's also very, very also
topical,
prophetic.
Yeah.
Like
that was the year before Big Brother came out.
Yeah. And it's a thing that it kind of it's just the whole idea of watching somebody's life like a reality show.
Yeah.
The fact that I also loved is when he starts realizing that there's a lot of stuff going wrong. Yeah. Where they kind of go, well, he's not supposed to, that's really weird, and how is that working, and how does that go? And
I love it when the lamp falls out of the sky.
Yeah. And the fact that he gets, I don't know, it's also a bit like a movie that's going to be in my top. It's also a bit a meditation of a man and God, isn't it? I mean, it's like the creator, the man Christoph that made him.
Yeah.
And he's like talking to him at the end, and he kind of goes like, who do you think you are? Yeah. Which is like a really great
what gives you
moment.
The right to imprison someone
to do this, to make me your entertainment, and to kind of direct my life like a movie. You know, he's a person, and he's got real feelings, and he's got real stuff that happens.
He's got the girl that had to get away, or
fell
away,
and that traumatized him.
Of course,
which is one of those things that you're like, that for you that was like ratings, but for that guy, that's his life, and it was a lie. All of it was a lie. So that's a movie which a lot of good movies do. I think is they work on very different levels. Yeah. And it's also what you kind of choose to see or to find in them. Sometimes it's obvious, but other times it isn't always obvious. But it is, that's a great film. Yeah,
I love it.
I saw that, I went and saw that like twice or 3 times, I think, in a cinema.
I saw it once in my favorite cinema, actually, that sadly closed down during COVID and so never reopened again, in Knokke-Heist, the Beverly Screens.
I've never been there.
There was just also a family enterprise, four screens, and I saw a lot of formative, like The Lion King. I saw there. I saw the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
Those are all great films as well. So, I mean, how good is Pirates of the?
But only the first one.
Yeah,
the first one is by
the others are fun. The second one is still fun. Then it kind of gets old.
The Keith Richards cameo is amazing.
That's funny.
But the first one is really
the first one is a really good movie. Yeah. It's actually one of those movies. It's a lot better movie than it had any right to be.
Yeah, because it was just
it was like
theme park,
it's based on a theme park ride. Where it was like, well, what kind of a shit movie? Who cares? Yeah. And then it did that casting thing where it went Johnny Depp, and we all went, Johnny Depp was like, I saw a lot of his movies, also in cartoons.
He was the box office poison at the time.
Of course, and he was also a very indie kind of actor. He did
like
these
Dead
really,
Man and
which is really great.
Ed Wood, one of my favorites.
Ed Wood is fantastic. I loved him in what is it? Seventh Sign, he has like a lot of these movies that are
what is it, like the
Ninth Gate. That's it. That's what the one. That's the one I was going for. It's not the Seventh Sign. That's another movie. The Ninth Gate. He loved. I just loved Johnny Depp. So I was like, he's going to be that. And what I loved about him, because he said that in an interview once, where they asked him about like the first time he says like, if I have a take on a character and I do it the first time on the set, I always know when I'm onto something when they yell cut and everybody's like deathly quiet. They're all looking at each other and going, what the hell is he doing? Because they kind of hired him to be like the dashing, good-looking pirate.
And then he came on set with the Keith Richards.
And he did that whole, the whole is the ram, that thing, and everyone went, what the hell is he doing? He's supposed to be, but he created an iconic character.
Apparently, everyone at Disney, not hated it, but was really afraid that he was going to hurt the box office chances. So what was the big guy? Michael Eisner back then. What is he doing? He's ruining my movie.
Yeah.
But then there was one guy, I think Dane Cook. No, Dane Cook, that's a comedian. Dick Cook. Richard Cook, apparently. Dick Cook, he said, I believe in Johnny Depp. I hired him. It's my head that goes off with my head if the movie flops.
Yeah.
So thanks to Mr. Cook, Depp could do what he wanted, and it's just an amazing character. It's instantly, just the first scene when he's on the
It's one of the best introductions of a character of all time.
And then Guy Seiner, what's his name from Allo Allo? Gruber.
Gruber.
He says like, it's a shilling. I shall need to know your name. Say I give you 3 shillings and we forget the name. Welcome to Port Royal, Mr. Smith.
That's so good.
And then he goes with it for the whole movie. He's like, what's your name? Smith or Smithy, if you like.
It's just everything he does. I love it. And also, if you see some of the outtakes of that movie, it's really funny as well. Where they kind of go, where he kind of goes, parsnip, and he goes, what? Do you mean parlay? That's the one. And he goes, if I get my hands on the guy that invented parlay, and he goes, it's the French inventors of mayonnaise, eunuchs, each and every one of them. Snip, snip. He does that, and it's so good.
It's a well-rounded character.
Yeah, because he kind of, and that's what really great actors, I think, do. Like all the really good ones is what they can do, and what makes it such an art to be a good actor, which is why I could never do it. But if I see guys that do it and do it really well, they're usually people that like they read the script, but every sentence they know they have like a backstory for the guy in that sentence, for the person. So everything they do feels like it has a sense of history to it. You're looking at someone and you kind of go, what made that guy into this? But the thing is, and that's why I never really like origin stories, hardly ever, because I kind of go, I don't want to know why he's that way. I just want to imagine what he was before he turned into this.
That's what Nolan said about the Joker. He said, my Joker has to be absolute. He just is. He wants to see the world burn.
Yeah.
But there's no,
and that's why
origin.
nobody's better, because that's the character he is. And the ending, when he says we're gonna do this forever, that's one of those things where you kind of go, yeah, because that's what the Joker is.
And it's too bad that we never got to see the Heath Ledger sequel.
Nah, true. That would have been really great.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that very first trailer. He was still alive. I remember I was doing my Erasmus in Sweden.
Yeah.
So that was like January 2000. He died at the end of January 2008, and I think the first Dark Knight trailer came out at December 2007 or the 1st of January. Really, like he died like 10 days later, and I remember seeing it like, wow, is this Heath Ledger I know from A Knight's Tale and 10 Things I Hate About You?
He was unrecognizable.
The first thing is like Evening Commissioner.
Yeah. His voice as well, the way he talks, every enunciation he makes, the way. All of that. Want to know how I got these scars? You know that, and I thought the first time he did it in the movie, I was like, oh, he's explaining his origin. But then when he does it again, and it's a like totally different story, you're like, oh, this is great, you know. And then he kind of realized that Christopher Nolan really got the character.
He really got it.
He knew what was special about the Joker, what makes him so unique. Yeah.
Just the scene with all the bad guys in group therapy.
Yeah.
I want to hear proposition.
Yeah. Where you kind of goes,
little gamble.
That guy's a squealer.
Yeah.
I know squealers, and that guy, you know, where he talks to that police officer, and he goes like, do you know why I like to use knives? It's like the small emotions. Yeah. In their last moments, I probably knew your friends better than you ever did. Want to know which one of them were cowards?
That's horrible.
Which is so.
It's like a John Doe scene.
Yeah. And where the police officer then goes, "I know I'm not supposed to gonna enjoy this, but I'm gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna try."
Just a punk,
you know, yeah.
I love it. Also, just the very first scene of Joker is like, what doesn't kill you makes you stranger.
Yeah. It's a great character.
And talking about dead guys, William Fichtner, the bank manager, just on screen for like 3 minutes. Amazing.
Great as well. He's always great. He's also one of those guys that's always good in every movie he's in, every series he's in, everything.
Even if it's just one scene, it's like, William is doing it.
Yeah, he's doing it. And you're like, he kind of, do you have any idea who you're robbing? And you're like, oh, that's that guy. Because he can immediately lend that kind of gravitas to that little part.
You and your friends are dead.
Yeah. Where he kind of goes, this is a mob bank. You're robbing professional criminals. Yeah. And that was like a really, it's like a really, really great scene.
Great scene. Yeah. Number 2. Alex Agnew.
Well, number 2 is kind of a special one because it's a very late edition.
Okay, tell me.
Dune.
The first or the second one? Or you just consider it one movie?
The new one.
The new one?
I just see... I
haven't seen it, so
I consider it as one movie. So I'll say that off the bat. It's like Lord of the Rings, which you consider as one movie, being a trilogy, like a movie in 3 parts. This is a movie in 2 parts.
Sorry, important disclaimer for the viewers not aware. Dune, the original, is also one of your favorite movies.
Yeah,
the David Lynch.
That's also true.
You are a lifelong Dune fan.
Yeah, I am a lifelong Dune fan. I've read the book like 10 times or more, maybe.
You even got what was it, like from your dad from the Brussels store? You got the original movie book.
Yeah, the Dune storybook, which was like a kid's version of it, which was the first version I ever read, and then I read the real book, which of course was a lot more and a lot like expanded enormously on the film then, because that was like David Lynch's movie was like 2 hours long. I think originally it was about 3 hours, but a lot of it was left on the cutting room floor. And it's a movie that very good, and it's a movie that David Lynch kind of disowns now, because he says like that's the reason why he doesn't like the movie is because he says it's the only movie in my entire career where I didn't have final say. So that's why he doesn't like it. I loved it as a kid. I just went and saw it, and I was like really...
You were the perfect age.
Immersed in that world. I was like,
12 years
I was
old,
11 or 12. And I just went and saw it like 4 times in the cinema, I think. And I loved the entire, like, the universe and the whole idea and the mixture between like politics and Family Feud, and of course a lot of the things I kind of discovered when I was older. I mean, when I watched it as a kid, I just saw it for the movie that it was. I didn't make all of the ecology and all of that stuff. That's like stuff that you kind of realize when you get older, and you realize that it has like a theme that's a lot more than just the first like surface level thing that you learn about the film. But for me, I loved that film as well.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was watching it in theaters? Because was it like a hit in Belgium, 84?
No, it wasn't. No. It wasn't.
You were the only one in the theater.
Well, a couple of times I was, because I went and saw it in the afternoon, and I was like all by myself as well. But I saw it with some people in the cinema as well. But it wasn't a big hit at all. But when you're a kid, you're not really aware of all of that. You just go and watch a film and you kind of think, oh, this is a great movie. And so for some reason, I always thought it was, until I found out it wasn't.
Did you get like the action figures at the time? Or?
Yeah, I did. I got all of them.
The LGN?
I bought all of them. I think I still have them somewhere. I should go and see if I still got them.
You should put them in your movie.
Yeah, with like Sting being like Fade Routher and all of those figures, which were really great, and I loved the look that Lynch gave it, like the still suits and the spaceships, and also like the mixture between like this really old style clothing and the like royal like kind of look, and then kind of combining it with the very modern stuff. It's got such a unique look that it still doesn't look too outdated. Some of the special effects are a bit outdated. It's like the same thing. But even the sandworms look pretty good. It's all very well done, I think. But the new movie, why I love that is because it gave me like the same feeling that Lord of the Rings gave me, where I was like immersed in a world that I didn't want to leave when the movie ended.
Yeah.
And it expands enormously on the David Lynch version, because of course it changes some things as well. The second film especially makes a few choices that are different to the book, which I didn't hate. I kind of liked it because it made it interesting as well. And I would say visually it's like unbelievably impressive. I mean, the way it looks and the way the world looks and the spaceships and the costumes and everything, it's like a really, really coherent version of. He's got like a vision. You can tell when a director has a vision, when he kind of goes, "This is what I want it to look like. This is what I want it to be."
Yeah, Villeneuve is one of the most exciting directors working.
Yeah, and he makes all of his movies are good. So I was like, I love this one as well, and. What I really loved about the second movie was also like the casting, which also is great again, also in the first one, but the second one cast like the role that was played by Sting in the David Lynch version is played by Austin Butler, who plays Elvis, and he's like a scene stealer. I mean, he's a guy that I remember I saw like a making of where they talked about a table read that they did online with Zoom. And everybody was doing like their table read thing, and then he was there he's like a new cast member because he wasn't in the first movie. Everybody else kind of knew each other, and he was like the new guy. And he sat and he just did his part, but he also did the voice during the table read. And everybody was like, and I remember Josh Brolin, who plays Gurney Halleck, he said, I better step up my game because this kid's coming out swinging. They knew like he's swinging for the fences. Yeah. This guy, he's not going. And I love the fact that the Austin Butler got a lot of criticism after Elvis when he got interviewed, that his voice kind of still sounded like Elvis, that they kind of went like, oh, is he Elvis or is he this or is he that? But that just shows what an amazing mimic that guy is as well, because the voice he does as Fade is actually Stellan Skarsgård's voice. So the way he talks and the accent he has is like the same accent, which makes sense because that's apparently the person he grew up around and who has the power and who he wants to be. He's like, I want to be that guy. I want to have his power and his position and all of that. And I love the way where he kind of goes, You fought well, Atreides. He has like the same, and he does like gravelly kind of voice, but it doesn't sound forced. It's not fake. He just you just see that character and you think, no, that's the way he talks, and the way he moves and everything he does is like he's like a reptile. You look at him and he's like a poisonous snake. He's like something. He moves kind of as though he's hypnotizing you, and he's just gonna, he's gonna strike and he's gonna kill you. He's just one of those iconic, like psychotic characters, but that has a lot going on as well, which makes him really interesting. Zendaya's really great as well. Her character gets a bit more is more interesting than it actually is in the books. There's a lot more happening with her character, and with her relationship with Timothée Chalamet is really great as Paul as well. And he kind of also grew into the part, because it's really funny that I saw both films. I saw the first one again before I went and saw the second one, and you can really tell he's a lot younger in that movie. You're like, oh yeah, there's a couple of years added to him, but it kind of helps because he has more of a gravitas for the part that he has to play. So I really love that film, and it's been a long time since my daughter really loves it as well. That's one of that's her favorite movie. She's of course very young, so this is kind of
16, right?
Yeah, it's almost 16. She's 15, but she's turning 16 in July.
Yeah.
And you can tell that's a formative movie. She's watching that and she's like, yeah, this will be one of my favorites. This is going to be one of her movies that she's going to be talking about when she's a lot older. Yeah, that's nice. Because she got the action figures and she's got everything, and she's like, I know, because she's gone from being a little kid to being a young woman.
She's like 1 meter and 80.
Yeah, she's tall as well, but she's also like really quick, like very smart as well. But the thing that she also does, and which I really love to see, that it's one of those phases that you can see with your kid, where like all the Stranger Things posters are coming down and all the Dune posters are going up, and you kind of go, she's kind of moving into another phase. She's maturing. All the things that she used to have on her wall is like that went down. Billie Eilish went up, and you kind of go, she's listening to music and she's into that, and so there's a lot of things. You can see like the evolution of your own daughter, and which is really nice to see, because she's turning into this nerdy kind of reads a lot of books person.
That's the.
Is that the doorbell?
That's the doorbell.
Okay. Do you need to go and check that?
No, and because my wife is picking up our kid, but I'm not sure. Perhaps it's my son, because he likes to ring the doorbell. Okay. That's okay. We'll do a quick pause when he comes in, because he'll be very loud. He's only 3 years old.
Great.
Final question, perhaps then we can wrap up the Dune part. Were you afraid, as a fan of the original, were you afraid prior to the first part that it would be bad, or that it would ruin your...
No, not at all. I was actually very excited about it when I heard it. I was like,
a new
yeah, they're going to do it, a new take, and also it was Villeneuve, so I knew, I like a lot of his movies, so that's not going to be shit. Then they started the casting, and I was like...
Michael Bay, you'd be more afraid.
Yeah, I'd be like, ooh, I don't know what he's going to do. Is just going to be a lot of explosions and walking away in slow motion and all of that shit. And
lingering shots on women's buttocks.
That wouldn't be too bad, but... You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you kind of realize, and as soon as he like announced the cast, you were like, oh, they're all great. This is... To me, it would have been more of a disappointment if it didn't turn out to be as good as it was. And I have to be honest, because it's one of those films where they weren't filmed back to back. So it means like part one went into the cinemas, and if that was a flop, we never would have seen a part two.
Animated.
So you kind of look at it and you kind of go, I hope this isn't the end. I hope this works.
Yeah, and I remember, because it was still raging COVID, it barely broke even. It was not guaranteed. It barely broke even. And this one did significantly better.
Yeah.
The first one made like something like $400 million, but it cost 200.
Yeah.
The second one did almost 800 million, so it did like double the business.
Yeah, and it's one of those films that also kind of delivers on its promise, because like the first part is like an introduction
slower,
and like world building, and it's kind of doing its thing. But the second movie, you get like the payoff, and to be honest, the way it ends as well, you kind of go,
you were looking forward to Dune. It would not disappoint in your.
No, I didn't think so. Yeah. I think I would have been really disappointed if that movie wouldn't have worked. And I was really interested in what he was going to do to it visually, because of course, you have to me that David Lynch film was kind of ingrained in my idea of what that world looked like. But also realized that it was a lot different to what Herbert wrote, because there's a lot of things about the Fremen, which is more like a Bedouin culture. There was a lot more like Islamic influences that weren't as much there in the David Lynch movie, and which are a lot more present in the new one. So I was actually fascinated to see what they were going to do with it and how they were going to portray all those characters and what the look was going to be as well. And then when I saw the first pictures, I was like, this is going to be great. Yeah. There was nothing that disappointed me. There was not any moment
you would
that
not improve anything, or you would not do something.
I don't know. I mean, there's always things that you can say if you're a really big fan of the book. You kind of say this is maybe a spoiler or it's not, but you don't get to see much of the spacing guild, which is a very important thing. I think I might have emphasized a bit more how important the spice was to the universe. But those are all a bit that's details, because it's obvious that Denis Villeneuve chose to focus on certain things of the story and then chose to ignore other parts. So I think that's probably the most important thing, is that you're watching the vision of a guy who also wants to make a third movie.
Yeah, what's it called?
Dune Messiah, which is actually Dune Messiah is the second book, but it's kind of a thin book. And there's there's a third one called Children of Dune, which is more, but it's I think if you combine the two, you can make the third movie that kind of finishes the whole Paul Atreides story. Yeah. So really looking forward to that, and he's writing the script. Apparently, they're going to do it. They're going to make it.
Just as an indication of how successful it was, it took a few weeks for Warner Brothers to actually bite the bullet and say, okay, we're going to do part 2 because of the COVID's mediocre box office result.
Yeah.
This one was hugely successful. It took him 2 days to announce the third one.
Yeah.
It took him 2 days to announce Messiah. So that's a good indicator.
And I'm looking forward to that, because that's there was an old sci-fi series about Dune that kind of did that as well. It made it kind of combined.
You mean the TV series?
TV series, yeah, which is not great, but it's also it's got its charms. But that's the version where you kind of go, you don't want it to be that. And that's exactly what Villeneuve didn't do. He just opted for a very specific look and a very... There's a scene in the second movie where you go to the planet of the bad guys, the Harkonnen, and you have this scene in an arena where Fade Rother is introduced, who's going to be Paul's main opponent at the end of the movie. And that's one of the most amazing looking scenes I've seen in a long time. And you could really feel it in the cinema, because I saw that movie 3 times, and I saw it in a packed cinema 3 times.
With your daughter then? Or?
With my daughter. She went and saw it.
3 times?
I saw it in London on IMAX, in the it's the British Film Institute, IMAX. It's on the South Bank, and we went and saw it there. And it's just, you can feel that it's happening when there's a lot of people in there, and you just see it, and they kind of go, you can always hear a guy go, holy shit, it's that. And that's what I love about movies, is when they give you that feeling,
that holy
when you look at something and you go, Jesus Christ, how the hell did he do that?
I had that with because we were talking about, let's say, not extremely well-made movies, but movies that are interesting failures. Tron Legacy.
Yeah, but I love that.
I love that
film.
Honestly, I love Tron Legacy. Mm-hmm. I think it's even better than the first one.
I know that's No, it's true. It is a better movie.
The music is amazing, of course.
It's Daft Punk, right?
Daft Punk. But I remember seeing it the very first time in cinemas as well, 2010, and I was a little disappointed. Visually, it's amazing.
Yeah,
story-wise,
unbelievable.
And every time I rewatch Tron Legacy, I love it more. That's really a grower of a movie. And why am I thinking about it? Because when I saw it in theaters, the first time when he enters the grid, let's say when he goes from the 2 and it was Garrett Hedlund, and so he's in the arcade, and then he leaves the arcade, and then you see the grid, and it's like, wow. It was the first time since Jurassic Park, I think, that I've really felt it in my veins. Like, this is visually... and then the thundering surround of the Death Punch. Like, wow.
That's it. I thought that was fantastic. I really loved it. And there was still a thing that I'm kind of... I think it's like it's one of those missed opportunities where I was in LA, like 2 years ago, I think. I was there with my wife and my daughter, and they had like in El Capitan, which is like a famous theater across from the Chinese theater.
Very famous.
And they had like a double bill, Tron and Tron Legacy. And I was like, I want to go and see that. And my wife and my daughter were like, do we really have to? I was like, all right, I won't go. But I'm kind of still regretting that. I'm like, I wish I would have done that.
Perhaps, with a little bit of luck, next year there'll be a third one.
Yeah.
Perhaps they'll do
Ares, I think it's called. Ares, Maybe. I hope they'll do it. They kind of do a marathon where they do the first one, the second one, and the third one.
Did you see the first one in theaters back in the day?
Yes, I did. When I was a kid, old, I was very young, but I saw that.
Did you like it?
Well, I thought it was weird.
It is
because when I was a little kid, I didn't really get all of it, because there's a lot of like users and all of the like bits and this and that, and there was a lot of like reference to computer things that I didn't understand as a kid. But I really loved it for the visuals. I thought it looked fantastic, and I loved the discs and all of that. And it kind of, what that does is it kind of speaks to your imagination a lot, and that's what I really love about films. And I love the sleek, updated version of the new one, which is also explained, because they kind of go, well, our world has evolved as well. We're not like these blocky kind of things anymore. It's become a sleek kind of...
I love that.
And now in the new movie, they're going to go into the real world. So it's going to be like an AI kind of thing.
It could work. I'm a little disappointed that it's not a direct continuation. I would have loved to see Garrett Hedlund and Olivia Wilde again.
Yeah, because I really love Gareth Hedlund. I think he's a really good actor as well.
Also, they were setting up the bad guy with Cillian Murphy into Legacy, and he's nowhere to be found in the third one. Right now, at the point that he's the hottest actor on the planet. Oppenheimer was amazing. I think we both agree.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought that was great.
Best movie of last year.
Yeah. Another director that could have a lot of movies in that top 5, Christopher Nolan. He's made such great stuff. So I think him and Villeneuve are kind of like the guys.
He's not in your top 5, so that's
which is weird, because he should be. But
should be.
Anyway,
but there's 2 David Fincher, so that's
anyway, kind of weird, because I wasn't planning that.
Yeah. Anyway, well, something to look forward to. Tron Ares. Hopefully, it is with. Starring Jared Leto, and I'm not the biggest Jared Leto fan. I think
I kind of like him, but I don't like him. I mean, it's one of those things where I think he's a really good actor, because if you give him a right part, he's really great. But he's also a very kind of mannered actor. He's got this really thing about him where you always kind of go, oh,
it's not necessary.
He kind of looks like he's. The thing about Jared Leto is that a lot of the times he kind of projects like this, look, I'm acting really well. And that's one of those things that sometimes kind of is jarring, but in other movies he's really good. He's great in Fight Club, he's great in...
I thought he was the weak link in, for example, the Blade Runner sequel. I didn't need him in...
Yeah, I understand what you mean,
Whereas the David Dasmalchian, that's an amazing underrated actor. He's also in Blade Runner.
Yeah, he's really great. Yeah,
he should have given him the part, because he's a very underrated actor.
A very good actor as well. Yeah, he plays Peter de Vries as well in the Dune movie, the Dutch movie. But that's like the Atreides is actually from the family of Atreus, which is like the Greek family, and you have like the Harkonnen, which is the Scandinavian name. So it's like really interesting.
World building,
and it's also it is actually all of those people have descended from Earth. It's like 10,000 years in the future. So it's like 8,000. Which is cool.
It's one of my stupid little pet peeves, but I like Dutch names in Hollywood movies.
Me too.
In Juno, it's like Katrina de Voort. Her house smells like soup.
Yeah.
it was not necessary to have a Katrina de Voort. It's just a funny choice to have a Dutch name.
Yeah, like
I love it.
That movie, which I also really love, because it's really, really weird that there's no Tim Burton movies in mine either, because I love his stuff a lot.
Yeah,
Sleepy Hollow,
Sleepy Hollow,
which is of course is like a Dutch colony where it kind of and I love that movie so much.
That's really cool.
Like Tim Burton's Batman's really fantastic as well. I really love that. I love.
This town needs an enema.
Yeah. He's because a lot of people always talk about Heath Ledger, but I think the only actor that actually got the Joker totally right as far as being psychotic and being funny is Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I love
because
Jack
he does the switch very well. Between he's that guy that you have a good time with until you find out he's a psychopath.
My face on a $1 bill.
Yeah. That's that. And where she goes, you must be joking. Do I look like I'm joking? It's just one of those.
I love Jack Nicholson as a Joker. There's just one but. It's that, of course, you always know it's Jack Nicholson.
That's the thing.
And Heath Ledger disappeared into the role.
Yeah, that's true. But on the other end, like Heath Ledger was nowhere near as iconic as Jack Nicholson, which is why it was a lot more
backlash.
It's like a lot more difficult for him to disappear into a role. But I understand what you mean.
Also, tellingly, it's Nicholson that got top billing.
Yeah.
It's Nicholson Keaton. It's not Nicholson.
No.
And he got did you hear? He got the best deal ever.
Yeah.
$60 million.
He actually made money off the merchandising of the next movies as well, which he wasn't even in. So he did really well.
Billy D. Williams also had a funny. Of course, not as much moolah as Nicholson, but he was contracted for 3 movies, and then they had to pay him. It's like sort of a pay-or-play contract in Hollywood. Whether or not, if he's not in the movie, he still gets his fee.
Yeah.
So when they recast him with Tommy Lee Jones, he still got his $1 or $2 million.
Yeah.
Great payday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I always thought that was a shame because I wanted to see Billy D. Williams as Two-Face. I thought that was. And that was one of those things where, like there's been a lot of controversy in the the latest years about like race swapping and stuff like that. But that was one of those things that was done then, where like Harvey Dent was a black guy, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. We were all like, "Yeah, it's Billy D. Williams. Of course, he's going to be good. It's Lando, man. He's going to be great." Nobody gave a shit. We were like, "Yeah, I don't care." It's just when you start doing it and you kind of get a feeling that it has an agenda instead of a choice, like a casting choice, then it kind of gets on your nerves, where you kind of go like, is this necessary? Yeah. But on the other end, if you do it and you do it right, then it doesn't bother anyone, I don't think. True.
That's what Nolan does great as well. Every bit part is cast perfectly.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer has 300 actors. The Dark Knight is filled to the brim with small supporting parts.
Yeah.
Rutger Hauer in the Batman Begins is amazing.
Wow.
Just as I
Didn't
said
you
before,
get the memo?
The Gamble and the Chechen in the Dark Knight, they're all perfectly cast.
Gamble is Michael Jai White, who's like a really and who's a great martial artist as well. He's like
I love Mike. Enough from the clown.
Yeah. He's good.
I'm gonna swap the SD card because we've been talking for 2 hours.
Who would have thought?
We were gonna do this for
but that's what you said. You said, are we gonna do like half an hour? I'm like, I never talk for half an hour.
So up to my number 2, The Goonies.
Oh yes,
and I've got a LaserDisc signed by Richard Donner.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, so this is I'll tell the story about it.
Richard Donner also directed Superman, so that's
one
really
of the
cool.
best was Lethal Weapon, Maverick. I love Maverick.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was one of the best working man directors. Never frills, never anything fancy, just well-made entertainment. Mm-hmm. It always worked.
Yeah.
Funny story. He never did conventions, so Richard Donner's signature is actually quite hard to get.
Okay.
And of course now he's passed away, sadly. Lived a full life. He 91, so that's okay. But what's the story? So I got to know just a guy, an aspiring screenwriter. Yeah. So this guy was trying to break into Hollywood in the movie, and he had a sort of an output deal with not Amblin, but with Lauren Schuler Donner, his wife. Yeah. Who does the X-Men movies and the So he had like a deal, like they were going to look at this screenplays first, and then decide, yes, we want to produce it, or we're going to pass, and then you can shop it around to another studio. So just a guy I met. He came to Brussels one day. He said, "Hey, Julian, you want to hang out? You want to show me Brussels?" I said, "Well, I don't really know Brussels, but why not? Here's a kak on a muts." No, that's not true. That's not true. No. So that's at least 10 years ago. He came to Brussels with his wife, and I said, "Sure, I'll show you around. I don't really know Brussels, but why not?" And then he said, "If you want, I can get you an autograph of Richard Donner." I said, "Sure." So I sent him I even got two. So I sent him. So the first one is signed, "Best to my fellow Goonie, your friend Richard Donner," and the other one is, "Thanks, Julian. Keep the Goonies going over there." So I had written like a letter, like saying, "This is my second favorite movie of all time." Yeah. I even have a website called thegoonies.be. So I'm really like spreading the gospel about the Goonies in Belgium. But so I sent the LaserDiscs to the guy, and then it took at least 2 or 3 months, because of course the guy had a busy schedule producing movies. But then when they got back in the mail, I was like so happy, like, wow, I got the director signing my movie. And then of course he passed away, and I heard about the fact he never did not even in America, he never did conventions. He was like, Spielberg never does conventions.
No.
Type of guy, he doesn't need it.
Well, they're too big.
Yeah, Nolan will never do a convention.
Of course not.
Villeneuve will not.
Why would he?
So that was what. But of course, the Goonies. I think that's one of my oldest movie memories. We had it taped on a Betamax. My dad had it at home. We didn't have
Betamax. By God,
we didn't have VHS,
which was actually better than VHS, but lost out thanks to porn movies.
That's what they say. I'm not sure if it's really the case, because I also heard that there were porn movies on Betamax. Apparently, it also had to do with Sony is always a little difficult in I'm not going to be able to pronounce the word correctly. Proprietary.
Proprietary.
So they always invent their own formats. They invented Blu-ray. They invented the minidisc. They invented Betamax. But that makes it hard for other studios to adopt it. Because then, of course, if Philips wants to make a Betamax, they have to pay a fee. If Philips wants to make a Blu-ray player, they have to pay a fee. Sony always does it, and they shoot themselves in the foot by doing that. So that's part of.
Is that like another story? Okay,
that's part of
the one I always heard was the one about the porn.
Me too. But apparently, there's porn on Betamax.
Okay,
I haven't seen it.
Thank God for that.
Oh, by the way, I should show you. I only have one.
I have a lot of very interesting porn movies. You kind of press a button and the wall opens up and it's like...
the Goonies on Betamax.
Oh!
Yeah, that's the only commercial Betamax tape that I have, because we never bought... My dad just taped movies, but... that's when I bought on a... no, not on a flea market, on eBay. I found it on eBay.
Really great.
And it's in excellent condition, too.
Yeah, it is. It's like mint condition. I think it's still...
No, it's semi-sealed. So the original owner just kept the what is it, the shrink wrap on there, but he opened it up... He did watch the movie.
I love those old
designs.
Yeah, and like the Drew Struzan, the guy who did like a lot of those posters.
He's the master.
There's like not many people that can. I still remember when the Phantom Menace came out and they released that Drew Struzan poster, and we all went like, "This is Star Wars," you know. So that's like I can always get behind a good Drew Struzan.
By the way, that's one point we'll disagree on. I actually like the Phantom Menace, but that's because I have the right age.
Well, I'll backtrack that a little bit, because since the new trilogy and all the TV series, which most of I don't like at all. I'm kind of seeing the original trilogy in a new light, and not nearly as bad as I kind of thought they were. Yeah, it's kind of softened my heart towards those. And I do have to admit, you know, I remember the first picture I ever saw of the Phantom Menace was a picture of the lightsaber duel in the desert between Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul. And I was like really impressed with that. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I also thought that Darth Maul was a great character, and there's actually a lot of really good things to be said. Yeah. If I think about the trilogy now, I still think it could have been done a lot better. But I do have to admit that I'm kind of how do you say? I'm kind of retracing my steps on that a little bit and kind of going,
I had the perfect age.
Yeah,
I was 14.
But that's another really important thing. It's a thing that you said, because I was a lot older. I mean, I grew up with the original
25. You were 25.
The original trilogy, and to me that was Star Wars.
That's
and
the
it,
gospel,
and it still is.
Yeah.
But I do have to be honest when I see the like the old like the new like the prequels. Yeah, I kind of like him better now than I used to.
And I think there's just a lot to love in Phantom Menace as well. For example, Liam Neeson is always amazing. One of those guys. He can read the phone book as well. I really like Sebulba for one reason or the other. I just love the character. I like all these pod races.
What are you waving your hand for? What are you, a Jedi?
No, sorry, that's Watto. Sebulba
Watto, Sebulba. Sebulba is like the one with the short.
Right.
The racer.
The racer,
the number one racer, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, I got them mixed up.
Watto, I know that Watto was like an anti-Semitic, racist caricature with the big nose and the like the money.
Yeah.
I still think it's a funny character. It's like Nubian.
Yeah.
It's just there's funny.
I don't know. I just that never really bothered me very much. Yeah.
And of course, Brian Blessed, one of my favorite actors, the loudest voice on the planet.
Yeah.
Boss Nass. You son of Tinken, you're greater than the Gungans. I just like that. I like Brian Blessed.
Well, I think if he will always be Prince Voltan to me, because that's the movie I saw him in as a kid.
Gordon's alive.
He's my voice on my GPS in my car, by the way.
Well, I can understand perfectly.
Go to the right.
Yeah, he's always very loud, and there's a lot of him that's really big.
He's the loudest guy ever. There's one of the. What's the quintessential something your dad would have loved? Is it not the 9 o'clock news, but the Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
He's hosting it.
Yeah.
And that was around the time that Britain was going through another crisis with Gordon Brown.
Yeah, I remember.
So Brian Blessed sitting there. Mm-hmm. The polls continue to slide for Gordon Brown. Some say he's dead and buried, but I say different. I say Gordon's alive.
Yeah.
That's audience erupting with laughter.
Did you ever see Ian McKellen standing at the window at this school? No. Where he talks to a load of students and he says, it's very important for you to study for your examinations. Because if you do not study, you shall not pass. And you kind of hear all the students go, wah! It's like Gandalf told us to study. So that's like really great.
When you're at that point in your career, because these guys are like 70 plus, 80 plus, you don't care anymore. You don't care about your legacy. You love being the ham that you are, hamming it up. And and I think it's also amazing, like for guys like Ian McKellen, like Christopher Lee, that like late in their careers, after a very long and distinguished career, Shakespearean acting,
and all of that, you kind of get to be in that really successful cultural thing that everybody loves.
Your bills.
Yeah, and you're in Lord of the Rings and you're in Star Wars. As far as Christopher Lee was concerned. Yeah. And he was an amazing person as well. He made a heavy metal album when he was like 89. Yeah. And I don't know. I love guys like that, where I kind of go, there's a kind of really nice poetic justice to it, where that because they're that good at what they do. Mm-hmm. It's like Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. He's one of those guys that was like a really good actor, but it was always like a bit of a, he always got like the part where he was like, oh, you're this and you're that. And then all of a sudden he had Silence of the Lambs and everybody kind of realized, like, wow, this is a really great actor. Yeah. And then he got these really great parts. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, that's sometimes you kind of need a Hollywood fairy tale in real life as well, where you can feel like this person's been around for so long, they've been so good at what they did. Like Maggie Smith being in Harry Potter and becoming McGonagall and becoming this person that everybody knows. Where they
Downton Abbey as well.
Yeah, where they kind of deserve their iconic part because that's
the thing they'll really remember.
Yeah, because they've done so many great things that they won't be remembered for.
Maggie Smith has 2 Oscars, one for California Suite and the second one I can't even remember. But when she passes, and please don't pass yet.
No.
When she passes, it won't be California Suite, it will be Harry Potter.
Yeah.
It will be Hook. It will be Downton Abbey. That's what they'll mention on the news.
Yeah, and that's what she is, and that's what, Ian McKellen will always be Gandalf or Magneto.
Or Magneto. And even in Belgium, it's just Gandalf.
It's just Gandalf, yeah.
Gandalf, that's his... I think my favorite story, likewise, is Patrick Stewart was once asked by a sort of a snooty, stuffy British critic as well, film critic. Aren't they all? And he said, don't you think that... he's a classically trained Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
You're Jean-Luc Picard. Isn't that beneath your stature? Isn't that beneath your standing as a Shakespeare? And he said, au contraire. I've done Shakespeare to prepare for my biggest part as Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
That's an amazing answer.
Yeah, because you also know he's going to be Jean-Luc Picard and Professor X. That's who he's going to be.
He's not going to be
He's been
Othello.
in another one of my maybe all-time favorite movies, which also could have been in the top 5, called Excalibur.
Oh.
Film by John Borman. Who was is like it's the best movie ever made about Arthur legend ever.
I'm also partial of First Night, by the way.
Yeah, that's fun, but that's like a totally different thing.
But I love Excalibur.
But Excalibur is like really faithful to the source material, you might say. Has a very young Liam Neeson in it. Patrick Stewart, who plays Leon de Grant, who's also one of the knights, and it's just a great film. It's got a great Merlin as well, Nicol Williamson. It was like he's in Spawn, by the way. He's Cagliostro in Spawn. It's the same actor. He's Nicol Williamson. Yeah, he's also a Shakespearean actor, by the way. I saw a play with him on tape in school. It was my favorite. One of my favorite plays of Shakespeare is Macbeth. I seem to like the ones with villains, like Richard III, and that is always my favourites for some reason. But he's a great actor as well, and he plays Merlin in the movie, and he has this great line where he says, the Knights of the Round Table have won a lot of victories, and they kind of united England, and now he says they're on like a hill, and he goes, and then Arthur goes, I'll build a table. Yeah, where we can all sit, and I'll build a castle around the table, and it's he's going to build Camelot, and it's going to be like the round table that has the knights, and then he goes, and that I love that where Merlin goes, remember this moment, savor it, for it is the doom of men that they forget. And that's just one of those things where you kind of go, that sentence has echoed in my head for so many things. That I kind of go, we always keep repeating the same mistakes, for it is the doom of men that they forget. So that's that's also one of my one of my all-time favorites. Yeah, very difficult having a top 5 without having to mention a lot of other movies.
Yeah, speaking of quotable lines, one of my best friends is called Peter, and I always say the way it doesn't happen. I say, "Yo, Peter, yo." Peter. That's how when I see him, yo, Peter. Yo, Peter flogging flying pan. Anyway, number 1, the big moments.
Number 1. I think I've said that in a couple of interviews. I think it's a bit of a common knowledge thing. But my number 1 is Blade Runner, which definitely wasn't my favorite movie the first time I saw it, but I was just fascinated by it. I was like a little kid, and it was on television. I remember because I was too young, and I was at home, and it was like one of those. It was coming on TV, and I knew it was like Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford to me was Han Solo, and it was Han Solo and robots. So I was like, I have to see this. This is going to be great. It's going to be Han Solo shooting robots. And that was kind of like the movie I was expecting. Yeah. Again, it was like the same thing that I had with Fight Club. I had a totally different expectation to what the movie turned out to be. And I knew Rutger Hauer was in it. I'd seen photos with his white hair and all that look. And
a bit Sting-esque.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. So I thought, it's going to be kind of like that. And I remember when I was seeing it, it was like, I was very impressed by the way it looks visually. Immediately, I was like, wow, what the hell is this? But it was like really depressing because it is like this really dark, dystopian kind of like mega city thing where which there weren't many movies that looked like that. You have a lot of movies now.
Yeah.
I think it was like their inspiration was Metropolis by Fritz Lang, which is kind of like that, but it was of course the upgraded version, so it looked like, and it still looks really, really good.
It holds up amazingly.
It holds up unbelievably well.
42 years old, right?
Yeah, and it was like the original version, so it was not the director's cut. It had the voiceover.
Yeah.
Which I never minded, to be honest. It had like this kind of film noirish kind of quality that I didn't realize when I was a kid when I saw it the first time. But I was just watching it, and I remember it was always raining, and it's like dark, and there's not that much action in it either. So you're kind of watching, and you're going, well, what is this all about? And you have these robots, and he's like a Blade Runner, and he has to catch them, called replicants, because they're like humans. But to kind of prevent that they develop a lot of complex emotions, they only have a 4-year lifespan, which is, of course, a very cruel thing to do to
another human being.
But still, but a human being in the end, because they do develop feelings, they do turn into people. Which is of course like a very interesting meditation on what makes anybody human, and that's what I kind of learned when I saw it later, and I saw it again, and I kind of realized. But what I know was when I saw that movie, I didn't know what to feel, and I was like, what the hell is this, and what is it? And it was dark and depressing, and it looked different, and I know I carried that movie along for a couple of years until I got older, and then I saw it again, and that was the moment where I kind of went, this is the best movie I've ever seen, because it never left me. I saw that movie and I was like, I don't know, there's something about this film. Because I actually said I didn't like it in the beginning. I was like, oh no, I didn't think that was great. But there was something about it that I went, but why? What was going on there? I knew there was more to it than I was seeing at that moment. It's kind of a gut feeling, because you feel... It's like a movie, which is what I love about it as well, is that even as a little kid, you feel it even though you don't understand it. You're like, there's something about this that feels off, but you don't know why until you kind of see it again. And there's like this great scene, it's like the same, it's like very Truman Show-esque actually, where Roy Batty, who's played by Rutger Hauer, goes up to the top floor of the pyramid and meets, the Eldon Tyrell, who's like the man who created him, who's God. And I thought it was a really interesting thing to see, like the perfect creation of God walk up to God and go, I want more life, fucker, because that's the original line.
I always liked the father line, because I think it's much more emotional.
That's right, but to me, because the first time I saw it, he said that, I was like, I thought that's also really good, because that's what you would say to God if you were really pissed off at him. You would go, fuck off, why do I have to die? And the thing is, when he's like there, and it's kind of a bit of a Lucifer story as well. It's like a fall from grace, because he kind of chooses to not be. He's like the light bringer, like the best of all. It's what Tyrell also tells him.
The light that burns twice as brightly.
The light that shines twice as bright burns half as long. Yeah. That's what he said. And you've so very brightly. You know that, and where he goes, where he kind of he just talks to him, and he kind of gets told that it's irreversible. He is gonna die. There's nothing he can do about it. And then he kills God. It's man kills God. It's man goes, you can't give me what I want. I don't need you anymore. I'm gonna do it by myself. It's like a fall from grace. But then in the end, and that's like really beautiful, which is like the scene where everybody talks about, where he actually saves like decades, Harrison Ford's life. He's actually the only really human character in the movie, along with Rachel, maybe, who's like the female, like played by Sean Young. And when he saves Deckard and he puts him they sets him down on the roof, and then he does that speech where I've seen attack ships on fire, and then where he goes, time to die, and he just releases the bird. Beautiful. It's just one of those things where you kind of go, there's no way that you cannot see that and not be affected by it in some way or another. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that to me was that's what makes it such an amazing film, because I can see it like a million times and I never get bored.
And you always find new details.
Yeah. Also with the other
the neon commercials.
the other guy, that guy who's in that
Edward
movie.
D. Olmos.
No,
James Olmos.
no. Edward James Olmos is good as well. He plays that. What's his name?
Riff?
I can't remember.
Graf,
Jesus. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Graf. Yeah, he's like this weird. Too bad she won't live. But then again, who does? But what's his name?
You mean Emmett Walsh, who just passed away?
No, he's also great. But
Brian James.
That's the one.
Yeah,
Brian James.
With the creepy
where he goes, nothing worse than an itch you can't scratch. He has that.
Tortoise.
Yeah, and where he goes. Also, when did you get your precious photos?
Oh, I love, that's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah,
did
yeah.
You get your precious? That's actually the only line where he sounds a little Dutch.
Yeah.
Did you get your precious photos?
Yeah.
But I love the line.
Men,
Great line.
policemen. The way they just talks and all that.
I just love just the faces Rutger Hauer makes.
Yeah.
He's not speaking. He's like.
Yeah.
It's like, I've sinned, father.
That moment where the guy goes, the Chinese guy, who's also a great actor, by the way, James Hong, who's and where he goes, eyes, I only do the eyes, and then he goes, if you'd only seen what I've seen through your eyes. That's like, it's just one of those things where the entire movie, everything about it is just. It's actually just people that desperately want to live, and that kind of go, this is not fair. We don't deserve this. And Rick Deckard, who's like the Blade Runner who like eliminate, is actually, well, he's not really the good guy, is he? I mean, he's just a guy that's killing creatures that don't want to die. That's the only thing, because they're not. Roy Batty's not going around killing everybody and being on a rampage, and he just wants to survive.
Yeah.
And that makes it such a tragedy as well. And the beautiful thing about it is that the only real killer in the movie, well, his life is saved by the inhuman thing he's supposed to that he's supposed to kill.
Yeah.
So that, and the music is great. Vangelis is fantastic as well, and the entire look of the movie is so unbelievably influential. I mean, so many other movies that depict the future that kind of looks like Blade Runner. So many of them.
Equilibrium.
All of them.
Matrix.
Almost all of them. Every cityscape, everything
Dark
that you
City.
see, all of those, they're all kind of Blade Runner, if you look at them in that way anyway. Yeah. Well.
What's the word we'd say in English for schatplichtig? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
They owe a great deal to Blade Runner.
Yeah,
Let's
they
say
do.
it like that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Two things about Blade Runner. Also one of my top 15, something like that. Well, anyway, one of my favorites. Father of a friend, the same Peter, the Peter I just mentioned, his stepfather sadly passed away last year. And his stepfather passed away, and he was not a religious man, so it was just in the, how do you say it, in the...
Crematorium.
Is it crematorium in English?
Yeah, I don't know if they call
crematorium?
it that. I don't know if they call it that. It doesn't sound right, does it?
No, it doesn't sound right.
Doesn't sound right,
The
but anyway.
fireplace doesn't sound right.
That sounds even worse. I don't know.
Anyway, his father had a sort of civil service.
Yeah.
And they showed the end scene of Blade Runner.
Okay.
And that was the first time I saw it during a funeral, and it was so fitting because, of course, it was about a guy time to die.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect, and what made it extra emotional or special, because of course I was like joking up because I love the scene. I didn't know the stepfather, so it was not like it was a personal friend of mine. Because of course you're sad when a friend of yours loses his stepfather.
Yeah, not only that, I think funerals always do that, because you're always stepping into this kind of, you know things end and you lose people, and you're gonna end up there as well. So it's always a meditation on mortality. So
But what made it more tragic was that the stepfather was the guy who introduced Peter to the movie. So it was very influential to Peter as well. The reason that Peter likes Blade Runner is thanks to the man who just passed away. So it was very nice of them, of the family, also of the, let's say, the older generation to accept the fact that we're going to show a movie clip that's a little bit weird during a funeral, but it worked.
But actually, that should be done more. I think it would make funerals a lot more interesting. Anyway, usually they're very boring, turgid affairs that you just want to get rid of.
Imagine if they then pick the wrong fragment.
Oh, that would be really good.
So now we're gonna watch a scene from Ben-Hur, one of his favorites, and then they push play and you get like, I don't know, the Joker.
Yeah, or Schindler's List, which is like one of those things where you kind of go, really? We're all depressed. Do you need to show us this? This is horrible. Yeah.
And then the final
and it's a scene with Armongirth shooting the people from on top of his, which is again a great Ray Fiennes. Yeah.
Ray Fiennes. Great. Now, and then the final thing about Blade Runner, what always, and perhaps you know the answer because it's your favorite movie, so you know it by heart. They say that the replicants have a 4-year lifespan. But Roy Batty, you see it in the beginning of the movie, inception date 2016.
Yeah.
Which means he's only 3 years old in 2019 when the movie takes place. So how come he passes away in 2019 and not in 2020? I have no idea.
No idea. I've never even noticed that.
I
so
want
it's
more
really
life,
good.
father, but he should have gotten at least one more year.
Yeah.
He should die in 2020.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
And also cool, his inception date is 8 January 2016, which is David Bowie's birthday. And 2 days before David Bowie passed away, because he passed away on 10th January 2016. So I'm just going to assume that Roy Batty is David Bowie's reincarnation.
Oh,
let's go with that.
Let's go with that. I can get behind that. Yeah.
Okay, so final movie, my number one. Back to the Future.
Yes, of course.
I think this is also one of your top 20, let's say.
Yeah, definitely.
You like it as well? Did you see this one in theaters?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just 1 year old, so
I'm a lot older, so that's one of those movies that everybody saw in the theater that was my age.
Do
at
you
that time.
remember anything at all? Like 1985, was there a hype? Did it live?
Yes,
in Belgium?
very much, very much. It was a hit. Yeah, and. The movie, the song "Power of Love" by Huey Lewis and the News was a hit as well, which everybody knew. And I still remember, I remember a lot about it because, like the opening scene where he kind of plugs in the guitar and that kind of goes, and the speaker explodes and all of that stuff. And of course, Christopher Lloyd, who I knew from a series called Taxi.
Good. So good.
Yeah, so I knew him from that. So to me, it was also like it was not like he was an unknown actor to me as well. I knew who he was, but there was a lot of unknown actors that I didn't know, like Crispin Glover and like Tom Wilson, is it?
Thomas Wilson.
Yeah, the guy that plays Biff. Yeah. And to me, immediately, everything about it I loved.
It's a very well cast and very well written movie.
It's also a practically perfect movie. It's like one of those movies where everything works.
Change a single,
There's not one thing that you do differently, and that's what I think really great movies are, because it's one of those things, and that's like one of Focke's things where he always talks about, but he's kind of not. Well, he's kind of right when he talks about not in all cases, but in many cases, what they used to be really good at was telling a perfect story in about 90 minutes time.
And now it has to be.
They didn't need 2.5 hours to get to tell you this story. There's so many things you know about Marty's family from the get-go just because it's been written so well. His dad's kind of a loser that never wrote the book he wanted to write. Yeah. Then you have like Biff, who's his bullyish kind of asshole, employer that he got bullied by him in school, and he still gets bullied by him. Who also hits on his mother. He's just an asshole, and you kind of know. That his mum never really lived up to her potential either. Everybody's like a sad version of themselves.
It's just a hollow shell of
themselves. It's just not one of those. He's not growing up in a really happy family.
No.
And he's just one of those kids that he is kind of an optimist, and he is kind of a guy that
he has a good girlfriend.
He has a good girlfriend.
He can play the guitar.
He's a cool kid. People like him. He's very likable as well. He's a very likable guy.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting about you undoubtedly you've seen this, but the movies that made us that kind of where they have actually a lot of footage of the guy that was originally going to play Marty McFly, Eric Stoltz, and the thing was he didn't get the character.
No, not at all.
He played it very seriously, and the first thing he said, apparently, when they were doing the read of the script, he said, "But this is a tragedy, because Marty's going back to a life that's not his life, because everything's different.
Everything's different,
and he's the only one that doesn't know how everything got like that. He's still the same. He's actually from a different place, and he's got a good point. I mean, if you start thinking about that, it is actually kind of weird where he comes back and where just because the decision his dad made to stand up to Biff, to kind of changed everybody's life. Yeah. But which is, of course, also very interesting when you see the second one and Biff decides to go back and give the almanac to himself.
I love the second one. It's so meta.
And that's a really weird movie because I went and saw that in the cinema and I love it a lot more now than I did then.
Oh, yeah.
Because I watched it then and I was like, oh, what the hell is going on here? And the third one, the Western one, is always kind of a bit the forgotten one a little bit. It's fun, but it's nowhere near as deep as the second one is. No. And it's not as good as the first one is. But
I think the first one stands on its own.
On its own, yeah.
But the sequels, unlike a lot of sequels, they don't hurt the original.
They're
perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And especially the second one is very inventive and original and groundbreaking as well. I mean, Zemeckis, they invented the new... Oh. Nope. Not going to do it. It's not my boss.
Very good.
When you're important, people wait. That's something, we didn't say that on camera. That's something Alex Agnew actually said to director Eric Van Looy. Sorry. Back to the Future. So the second one is they even invented a new camera to adequately have the three Michael J. Foxes in frame where he plays his son, daughter, and older self. Yeah. In 89, or let's say when they shot it in 88, that was really, groundbreaking. That was really original. They did not have the special effects yet, ILM, to pull it off. Yeah. So I'll always admire Zemeckis for his groundbreaking technological filmmaking techniques. Forrest Gump as well. Forrest Gump was one of the first where they seamlessly integrated old and new footage. Where he talks to John Lennon, where he talks to John Kennedy. Yeah. Zemeckis does not get enough credit as a technical director. Yeah. But Back to the Future Part 2 mostly works as a fun movie. But the first one is the classic. That's really a perfect movie. Where, as we said, you wouldn't change a single beat. No. Even the bit players, like the Clock Lady Tower is hilarious. Goldie Wilson,
Save the Clock Tower.
Mayor. Even the old guy Lou from the cafe. What'll it be? Did you jump ship? Every tiny character.
Why are you wearing a life preserver? It's just one of those great
Marvin
things.
Berry, your cousin Marvin Berry. Every character is hilarious.
Remember that new sound you were looking for? Well, listen to this.
Also, the Three Stooges, Biff's henchmen. There's one, Billy Zane, very famous actor, but also a very underrated actor, Casey Simasco from Young Guns. He plays like the 3D guy, and I just love. Hey, beat it, spook! This don't concern you. I just love. And then the black guys, like 6 guys.
Who you calling spook? Peckerwood. That's really great.
But also it's like a visual comedy. 6 big black guys entering one tiny car. It's like the clowns in the tiny car. It's no way they could have fit it all in the car. No. Yeah, it's just a perfect movie.
All of it. The fact that he plays the Chuck Berry thing and then kind of goes into Van Halen at the end, and everybody come and then he goes like, "I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, huh? But your kids are gonna love it."
And I think it's one of the, not few movies, but one of the movies that has the most setups and payoffs ever. Yeah. Every joke that's introduced gets a payoff in the end. For example, in the clocks in the beginning, you see a little Harold Lloyd tiny hanging man from the clock. That's what Doug does at the end of the movie. He's hanging from the clock. Yeah. There's at least 10 or 15 little jokes. Twin Pines Mall. He runs down the pine. It's Lone Pine Mall in the present. it's amazing what the amount of detail they thought about to have jokes that to work, to get the jokes to work.
Yeah, it's just all of it is great, and all these little. There's that word again, heavy.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the outtakes on the DVD? There's like 15 takes with Michael J. Fox or Marty and Doc in the high school in the school, and apparently there's a deleted scene where Leah Thompson is cheating on a test.
Yeah.
And so the scene was they just cut it out of the movie, but the scene was supposed to be like Marty seeing through the window. Oh my God, my mom's cheating. Oh no, she's not as good as she's not as holy as I thought she was.
Yeah.
They cut it out, but there's like funny outtakes where Fox adopts like a sort of gringo persona. It's like, hey, the bitch, she's cheating. Hey, puta, hey, bitch.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. You can see that they're having fun on set.
Yeah, but that really changed when Michael J. Fox came on board, because that's what they said. As soon as he was there, everybody on the set kind of relaxed and went, "Oh, this is going to be great."
This is going to be great. Yeah. And what's even more amazing is that he was running on fumes.
Yeah.
Because he was doing family time.
Yeah.
He was doing Back to the Future like between 2 and 5 a.m.
Yeah.
He was that tired.
Yeah.
And still he gave it. Imagine what he could have done if he was fit.
Yeah, but maybe he wouldn't have done better. I don't know, because he did it perfectly. How would you do it better? There's no way. That's like this footage where you see Eric Stoltz, where he kind of discovers the square.
Yeah, the town square.
And he looks like really scared, and he's like, but Michael J. Fox plays that totally differently, where he kind of walks up and he kind of goes, what the hell? And then he kind of does that like stumble thing, and he's walking around. I
love how he's always stumbling.
And you always look at him the way that you kind of go, well, there's like a sense of wonder about everything he does. And that makes it like such a fun movie to watch as well, because there's nothing cynical about that film. There's nothing. I mean, that's the one thing where people talk about. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's like I said. It is getting better again. But if people talk about, they should remake like Back to the Future, I'm like, why?
Yeah, please no.
So somebody could go back in time, and then they have to have a comment on racism, and they have to have a comment on. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about all of that. You know, I just wanna watch a film. Yeah. That you have Goldie Wilson, and you realize that he's a guy that's cleaning and the kind of but he's gonna end up being mayor, so that's really interesting. He gets better. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on where you kind of go, like people, because that movie got like a bit of criticism later on, where they went like, oh, it's like a lot of nostalgia in a time where there was a lot of inequality, and I'm like, yeah, sure. But that's like every movie that's ever been made before the 60s, before you had like the civil rights movement. But that doesn't that doesn't mean that the story isn't worth telling. I mean, sorry, I got
it's okay. Yeah, I also read that, for example, Crispin Glover didn't get the movie at all because it's okay. Yeah. He said that, or he thought that the movie was sending the wrong message. Yeah. Because in the end, capitalism wins. Because they're happier, because he has a better job. He has the wife is thin. Yeah. They have a nice car. Yeah. And he can bully Biff around like the car salesman or the polishing car. Yeah. That's really a weird take. I think because I was younger when I saw it the first time, but I never took away from it that it was like a capitalism wins. To me, it was just more of, the family is happier because George stood up to himself. Yeah,
and there's a sort of justice that the bully isn't the guy that wins, but it's the guy that was picked on that kind of gets out on top. Yeah. I can understand that, but that's like the trouble with all of this, is like if you have like this kind of view that you always have to see everything that you always have to politicize everything, which is what was going on for a good while in the last couple of years. To me, it just makes everything really boring. I mean, I'm just looking at that and I'm kind of going, that's one way to interpret it. It's always kind of choosing to interpret something in the worst possible way that you can. You're not going, the family is happy now, and the guy that's a bully and that's always been an asshole to everybody's kind of been taken down a peg, and all this. And it's not like he's he's bad because he kind of goes, "Hey Marty, how's the?" You know, he's kind of nice to Marty as well. So maybe Biff is just a nicer guy because that happened to him as well.
Perhaps, yeah.
You know, there might have just been that thing that he needed to kind of realize that he doesn't get to push around people all the time. Which is, I think, I never had a problem with that message. No. I didn't see it as like, oh yeah, this is an ode to capitalism. I mean, that's one of those throwaway lines in the last Indiana Jones that I really hated as well, where she kind of goes, the female lead who's Fleabag, what's her name? Phoebe Waller-Bridge, where she kind of goes, yeah, you steal it from him, he steals it from him, that's capitalism. And I was like, oh, fuck off. You know, and you could audibly hear the groan when that was in the trailer, when everybody kind of went, oh God, do we really need this? And that's what I mean. I mean, a message works a lot better if you show it, always. If I watch, nobody needs to tell me that racism is bad if you watch Mississippi Burning. Nobody needs to go, do you realize that racism is bad? I'm like, no, this movie is really showing me. I mean, if you look Time to Kill and you see what happens to Samuel Jackson's little daughter, and the moment that he says, yeah, I killed him, and I hope they burn in hell, you kind of go, yeah, as a dad, I really understand what you did there. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be said in movies. That's like the magic of the whole medium, because in a book you need to say everything, because that's words, that's all it has. While in comics or in movies especially, it's a visual medium. So more things that you show without having to tell people, make people feel things, don't tell them what they feel. That's when movies don't work. That's when you watch a movie and the movie's telling you that the lead character is really great, but the lead character doesn't do anything to make you feel that the lead character is great, then it doesn't work. Yeah. That's the thing. Some people can make you like or hate them with 3 minutes of screen time. And that's what great writing is, and that's what great acting is. And there's no great acting without great writing. And the other way around, because you can fuck up really good lines if you can't play them. And the best movies are always the ones where it kind of all comes together. When you kind of notice, like, there's a big book written about Blade Runner called Cinema Noir, or no, Future Noir, I think the book's called. Because it was a disastrous film to make. Almost everything went wrong. And it wasn't a hit as well the first time around, but it kind of grew, and it was thanks to video that it kind of... And then the director's cut was released in the cinema, and then it became like the cult classic that it really deserves to be. But sometimes, you know, the journey to make a really good movie is really hard and really difficult, and it's all crap, and nobody sees it come together until it finally does. And that's one of those magic things about film, is that all the best films you've ever seen in your life are films that made you feel something. That are not, that they entertained you. You had a lot of fun watching them, but there's also, you took something away from that film, which you basically take with you for the rest of your life.
I'm thinking perhaps the only exception, just off the top of my head, the one that barely or just missed the top 5, number 6, that's the Blues Brothers. But that's not really a profound movie. That's just a great movie about music and a mission from God.
True. It's not always, but it does make you feel something, because you love those guys.
I love it.
You want them to succeed. You don't even care what it is they're doing, to be honest. And that moment where they kind of get on stage and they do that big intro and nobody reacts, but then they start singing that everybody, and they kind of, you know, it's just one, and it has one of the best, well, it has probably the best car chase scene of all time.
Probably.
I don't think they ever destroyed more cars in one movie.
For the sequel.
Yeah, and the fact that I love that gay Nazis thing where they kind of where the guy,
I've always loved you.
I've always loved you. It was that, I don't know, I just love that movie.
That's one of the most quotable movies of all time. Illinois Nazis. I hate Illinois. What's about Illinois Nazis? It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Yeah.
What kind of a line is that?
It's all of it is great, and of course the really simple one: we're on a mission from God.
And then Rita Franklin, don't
Yeah.
blasphemy here.
Yeah.
This is my place, my man, my restaurant.
And then she does the best version, you better think. The way she does that is fantastic.
Have you ever seen the extended version on the Blu-ray and the DVD?
No, I haven't.
It's really recommended because, for example, there's like an extended bit with John Lee Hooker.
Yeah.
And he's playing Boom Boom on the street.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, so the theme song is over. And apparently he's arguing with a guy about who wrote Boom Boom, who got the songwriting credit.
Yeah.
It's like a full minute they're going, I wrote Boom Boom back in the 60s. Another guy, no you didn't. Yes I did. I wrote Boom Boom. No you didn't. It's not necessary for the movie, but it's hilarious.
No,
it's hilarious.
Those are really great scenes, like that, like the barbershop scene in Coming to America.
So good.
With Eddie Murphy and what's his name? Arsenio Hall.
Arsenio Hall, yeah.
Where they're kind of all going like,
Joe Louis is the best boxer that ever lived.
what about Muhammad Ali? All of that. It's just, hey, whoop Joe Louis's ass. About Rocky Marciano.
Rocky Marciano. Every time we talk about boxing, some white guy got to drag Rocky Marciano out of his ass.
Oh, I love it.
And that's just. It's one of those things, and that's like a unique thing about the 80s, I think, which is the decade that I was like a teenager and I grew up in, which I don't think you see that often anymore, but there were like a couple of really perfect versions of action movies that were also comedies, like Beverly Hills Cop. When the action in Beverly Hills Cop is actually very violent.
Yeah.
But when it gets funny, it's really funny.
Or Gremlins.
Yeah, and those are these movies that I kind of miss that, where I'm like, it was like they were able to make like a comedy that's also very violent, or that's also a very good action movie.
Apparently, there's a new one coming out that's very good, The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Great reviews.
It's
great reviews.
Yeah, it's based on a TV series that had
it's a really good movie.
And that was Lee Majors who played the $6 Million man.
So I'm
played
really,
like a stuntman. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I want to see that as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm all for funny, action comedies that are good. That's a rare sight nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the 4th Beverly Hills Cop as well.
Yeah, I
hope it's
Axel
good.
Foley. I kind of wonder if it's any good. I don't know.
He still looks the same. It's amazing. Like black don't crack.
Yeah, he still looks great. Yeah, he's still in good shape as well. So
it's like Ernie Hudson.
Yeah,
he's 79 years old. Have you seen his abs?
Yeah, he looks great. He's the guy.
He's ripped.
Yeah, the guy's.
And he looks 45. I don't know how he does. It's like
and there's some people that just have really good genetics.
Really good genes.
You can't do anything about that. He probably works out too. By the way,
you don't get those.
He probably does still takes care of himself. But still, some people.
Damn,
it's just By
the way, do check out Frozen Empire. I'm curious about your opinion because I really liked it.
Okay.
But the critical opinion is mixed to say the least. It flopped on the Rotten Tomatoes.
But a lot of things that people don't like of the reviews that I read. There's this one thing that they keep saying that's always like as if it's a bad thing, like fan service, where you kind of go, they give a lot, they give the fans what they want, and I'm like, as opposed to not giving them what they want, which is always a great idea. So to be honest, I mean, I don't really care about reviews anymore. I just go, if I want to see it, I'll go and see it, and I'll just think about what it does to me, and if it does anything, then I like it, and if it doesn't, then I don't care that it was made, but because I didn't see Afterlife either, I didn't see that one, so
interest at all, or?
Well, I wanted to see it, but it just never got around to it. So I think I'm going to see that one
really
first,
like
of course,
Afterlife as
and
well.
then I'll go and then I'll see the new one. Yeah.
Afterlife. Do you know anything about Afterlife? Spoilers or?
No.
Then I'm going to just be quiet. No, in the end, there's a very touching tribute, and I actually had a tear in my eye, which I never expected from a Ghostbusters movie.
Well, it's probably to like Egon because he died. Yeah,
Harold
of course.
Ramis,
So I'm pretty sure.
The new one is dedicated to Ivan Reitman, who passed away, but that's not nearly as emotional because it's really just dedicated for Ivan. But Afterlife really has a story beat, a story plot point about Harold Ramis, and that's really touching. So
That's
really good.
Yeah,
Very
I'm
well
gonna watch it because I've wanted to see it anyway, but I just never got around
it's
to it.
okay.
It's not because I didn't want to see it. It's just because it just didn't happen yet. Yeah.
But I think because your friends Alexander and Fokke are the true Ghostbuster fans.
Yeah.
I think they both liked Afterlife as well. It's not a perfect movie by far, by a long shot, but it's a very well made, and it was sort of like a course correction after the sour taste of the rebooting.
Yeah, the reboot wasn't great, and it didn't do much for Ghostbusters.
No.
So I'm really glad that they kind of corrected that
Yeah,
because that's what it kind of missed, I think. Yeah.
All right, Alex Agnew, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your profound take on your top 5. We've been talking
Thank
for
you.
3 hours
This
now.
is ridiculous. This is too long, but still, yeah. I had a good time. It was great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
And speaking English, I haven't spoken English for a long time. I mean, I used to do that every day when my dad was still alive, but he died like 22 years ago now. So it's just one of those things where I kind of go, hey, I got to speak English for a long time, which is nice.
Did your mom ever speak English with you when you were like?
No,
sitting at
she
the table?
she did when my dad was there because he insisted on English
She
in
could
the
not
house.
speak Dutch
When
to
he
you?
was there, when we were in the living room
Yeah.
together, we always spoke English.
Could he speak some Dutch?
Yes, he could. Actually, pretty good.
But he didn't like it. He just
Hij sprak Nederlands met een heel grote Engels accent,
Zoals
maar
Nigel Williams
hij sprak wel zo.
Okay.
So he could actually really.
But he just didn't like the
He
language.
understood everything, so we couldn't like gossip in Dutch because he understood everything. And he spoke it quite well. He spoke French quite well as well. He spoke
That's
German as well.
rare for
Also,
English.
same thing, same accent. Il parlait français, and I rated Deutsch, but he could do it. He could do all of it, and and he always did. And I thought that was kind of unique about him, was that he always respected the country where he worked enough to learn the language. He never had a problem doing that. He was like, nah, because I want to communicate with people and I want to be able to understand what they say as well. So that was kind of unique about him, because all of his British colleagues that visited me at home when I was a kid, and they came by, and none of them spoke any other language than English, and he was kind of different that way. So that's probably something, how would you say, sometimes lead by example, which is why I was always fascinated by language and still am, I think. I said I'm studying Japanese on Duolingo because I love doing that. So I just always want to learn languages and see what they sound like. And I love actors that can do that very well. I love an actor that if he plays a part and he does like a German, that he actually does the German accent really well. Stuff like that is really, really cool. Yeah.
Perhaps closing off or closing down, final question. Because you mentioned that your dad didn't really like the Flemish or the Belgian culture, which made for your, let's say, sort of holes in your knowledge or
gaps in my knowledge. That's what I was looking for.
Was there anything at all? Was there like one movie or one TV show that he did genuinely like? Just off the top of like, let's say, like Jacques Vermeer or Gaston and Leo. Could he appreciate that? Or?
No, not really. No,
Nothing at all.
I'm kind of thinking about what he would, because we did see Gaston and Leo
like
when I was a kid.
Know,
Urbanus, those things. But he didn't think. Nah, he did. He just. Oh God, no. No, there was nothing. There was nothing.
That he liked.
The only thing I've ever known him to admit to was Louis Naefs. That's the only one he ever said. He's got a great voice. He's got a nice voice. That guy. Look at that. There we go. Yeah, that's the one, where he went, oh ho, ik heb zorgen, oh ho, and
Benjamin is a masterpiece of a song.
Beautiful, and Jennifer Jennings, and those things, and that he liked.
Yeah, that's
He went. That's like the only guy he ever had anything positive to say about when he was talking about an artist or anything that was Flemish. It was like the only thing he ever mentioned. So, and that's why I always liked Louis Naefs as well, because he's just a guy that it's because I always kind of go, that's like the one Belgian singer that even my dad couldn't deny was a good singer, which is really cool. Yeah.
It's like Mike Myers once did a Sean Connery tribute at the AFI, the American Film Institute.
Yeah.
And then he talked about his father because apparently Mike Myers both his parents were British. Apparently.
Yeah.
And his father was apparently a huge Sean Connery fan.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
So was my dad. Yeah.
And apparently Mike Myers, he said whenever there was a movie with Sean Connery coming on, he says like, that's Sean Connery, that's bloody me like.
Yeah.
Dad, you're not Sean Connery. I mean, you're cool, but you're not.
Exactly
Sean
what
Connery
my
cool.
dad used to say. But this is a true story. When I was a little kid, my mum showed me a picture in a newspaper, and I looked at it, and I went, as a little kid, I went, Daddy. No. And she went, that's Sean Connery.
So he really
my dad really looked like him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
When he was younger, he really did resemble him quite a lot.
Okay.
So, and I think that was always a bit of a point of pride with him as well. I have to say, he was always like, he didn't have the ash and all of that, but he was like really into Sean Connery.
When you didn't do your homework, it's like, that's for blasphemy.
Yeah, blasphemy. Yeah, that's really good. So
a great dad.
Yeah, right.
Junior.
Junior.
Did he ever call you Junior?
No, he never called me that.
What was his first name, by the way?
John
Agnew.
John Terence Agnew. Yeah, that's cool what his name was. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Insights.
This was great.
And well, until we meet again.
Until we meet again and the case is solved.
By the way, there's also a Gladiator sequel coming this year.
I'm really curious about
what
that.
we do in life perhaps may echo in eternity.
Yeah, well, the first one definitely will. The rest of them we'll see about that.
We'll see.
All right.
Ciao, ciao. Adios.
Bye-bye.